What is crack-a-lackin', fellow thermonuclear AFers? I am Dan Favale coming at you with the hashtag return of the certified fantabulous thermonuclear AF co-host, Mr. Grant Hughes is back from a vacation and then a major sickness. Had a lot going on. Not only are you getting a weekend pod, but you're getting the return of Grant, and it's our mega Western Conference trade deadline preview. Go check out the Eastern Conference. Some of it's expired a little bit because I think it was pre-Siakam trade, but we're going to go through every team, and we claim to spend about 5 or 6 minutes per team. We'll see if we actually adhere to it this time. Before we get started, though, Grant, how the heck are you doing? Are you feeling okay?
I'm doing well. Since we last talked, actually, yeah, I guess I was on with Keith, but went to Disneyland.
Oh, yeah, I act like I haven't talked to you in forever, and you were just on a podcast this week, so you actually weren't.
Well, but if you're measuring time in podcasts produced, it's been forever because your ability to crank out like 2 more in the interim is impressive. No, went to Disneyland, came back, got sick, probably Disneyland's fault. So couldn't record this last night, but here we are, ready to go.
The sources want to know, how many churros did you have while you were there?
Oh, I probably oversold it, but I mean, for me, it was the most churros I'd had in any condensed period of time, probably ever. Which is to say, I think I had like, everybody's going to be like, what is wrong with this person? I think I probably had like 5 over 3 days. That seems like a lot of churros for me.
They don't sell them, and like I mean, it's a lot because they only sell them singly, right? So it's not like did you get 2 at a time and then you only went up 3? Like, how did this work? Like, did you 5 separate occasions actively choose to go buy a churro? Because then that's respect.
What you've made me recall that I'd forgotten, and I should update my churro count to reflect it, is there are these special, like, I didn't know they existed, very dressed up like dessert. Not that, of course, churros are dessert anyway, but like there's like, this is the strawberry cheesecake churro. Would you like one? Yes, I would. And it's too bad because they come in 2s. And so you get this like little, like one of those paper rectangular cup thingies. And there's 2 churros in there side by side, just drizzled in like every sweet thing you can imagine. They're already like injected with cream cheese and all this delicious stuff.
But then they have incredible.
They have 4 different kinds of these. So you got to try the Oreo cookie one and I don't know what else there was, like lemon meringue and then some chocolate something. So those were 2 apiece. And so I went through a few of those. So I would say over 3 days, I need to update I'm sharing these with a family, by the way, but I'd say total churro count, like maybe 8.
I have nothing but the utmost respect for you, sir. Nice
job.
From
you, that means a lot.
Okay, let's begin this trade primer. We'll begin with the Dallas Mavericks. We're going alphabetically, so this is dangerous. I think we might have done it by division for the East, but we'll go alphabetically for this time. Cross your fingers that this doesn't get too dated before it comes out because there's been more transactions during this window than normal. Dallas Mavericks, though, Grant, where do you want to start with them?
Just general thoughts. Like they're pretty clearly buyers. I know we actually talked about some of this with Keith, and it's just kind of the general, I don't know, main question for them is like, do we go for it now? Because I think you were the first one to point this out. You can get up to 3 first. If you wait till this summer to transact, you can trade 1 essentially now because you've got that Knicks obligation and that Brooklyn obligation. So your buyers, you should be looking for, I think, a 2-way wing, or if maybe, I've always thought they kind of maybe might need a 3rd shot creator. Just that's been kind of a preseason storyline, not as urgent as guys that will frighten a playoff defense more than Derek Jones Jr., more than Dante Exum, more than any of the other guys they could throw out there. So to show you how long we've put this podcast off, looking at some of their needs, because I put these lists together however long ago that was, except we weren't sure about Derek Lively yet. Somehow it's like they might need
3 weeks ago. You should have been sure about Derek.
Well, because I'm looking right here, I said might need a closing big, assuming that's not Lively. And I said, to my credit, I said Kleber's not that guy anymore, and he was still injured at the time. And has since coming back, was not that guy.
Right.
So yeah, that's I don't know. Dorian Finney-Smith is someone just like makes sense bring him back, even though he's not what he was when he was there. Just someone in that ilk. We can get to more targets in a second here, but what do you have different thoughts? Is there another like overarching point that we should be thinking about?
I'm kind of, if you want sort of a different backup 5 option for them because you don't trust Grant Williams, then we have some like bigger issues here. Like a backup big, I should say, because these guys are all over the place. I think they're mostly fine though between Kleba and Grant Williams and Derek Lively. And so if all those guys are healthy, I'm skewing more towards I want a 3-4 because you kind of already mentioned it. We've seen Derek Jones Jr. shooting cool off. Dante Exum is still shooting the 3 ball well on the year, but you want someone who also kind of has some size and where you would rather have Dante Exum perhaps at the point, although Dante Exum like was on that Gerson Yabusele diet. He got thicker. So that's good, but I think it needs to be a 3-4. And you said we get into more targets, but I want to ask you this. So there would have to be, they can make it work. Like there's swaps, there's money. They have Josh Green, even though it's very easy if you're a team under the tax to take in poison pills now with the way the matching is. If it's a matter of if you gave up what can they trade? The 2027 pick right now, I believe, right? Because they have 2029 to Brooklyn, and then there's 20 and 24, 25. Yeah, so 27. If you could trade that now in some package and get Jeremy Grant, would you do it? Or would you opt to wait for the summer where we can trade 3 first-round picks and see what's out there? So it comes down to, do you think you could get a player better than Jeremy Grant over the offseason?
Yeah, that's hard to know. I think Jeremy Grant, the contract we don't love, but he is the type of player they need. If you could get him for your 1 first now, I wouldn't be so sure that anything better was going to be available in the summer. So that might just be the right decision to just do, like who like I'm trying to think of the name that certainly isn't available now and that might be in the summer that Dallas could also win a trade bidding war for with 3 picks.
That's a big one. Yes, okay, there are 3 picks, a swap, is Josh Green in there, Olivier Maxence, Prosper, whatever. If Mikal Bridges or Larry Markkinen becomes available, they will not have the best offer.
No, they won't. And that's the case for a lot of the Lakers are in this bunch too. Like they can get to 3 if they wait till this summer.
I will say they're the team more likely though, where a player might be, well, want to go to the Lakers and they have the threat of free agency.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you steer your way there via trade demand or whatever. But yeah, I think increasingly, I think the move is now, if you could do that and make Jeremy Grant, that you're kind of your last swing really for this core in terms of like what you can go get for your assets. Cause that's a 3rd big salary there. But that is the player type you'd want. That's, we're talking about Finney-Smith and Royce O'Neal and, I don't know who else you might want to toss out there, but like, he's better than those guys. So I think if you're willing to say these are our big 3 salaries, Luka, Kyrie, and Jeremy Grant, and we think we have enough support around them, then I think you do that. I don't know. It's almost disheartening to kind of start thinking about the summer in those terms and say like, God, I don't know if it might be this slow then too. Right.
Well, I think there's something always just around the corner. That's how true. I have the faith that I would just do it for Jeremy Grant. I would not do it for Kyle Kuzma. If that's the one, I would rather wait.
No,
if that's the option on the table. Now, though, is there better bet? Like, is there a way for them to kind of keep their first round equity and actually address some needs? And I think I have 3 names here where it's like Jayshawn Tate, Bruce Brown, and Jonathan Isaac. If you can get those guys with, I don't know if Bruce Brown would cost you what they would actually cost, but if you can get those guys without giving up your future first round pick so that you are then able to get better while also maintaining that summertime top shelf offer.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way to go. But if it's Jeremy Grant, I do it. I just don't know what the Blazers would accept for him. Otherwise, though, I couldn't think of anyone else where it's no, you just do it. I'm probably for them trying to straddle the fence here.
Yeah. So to that end, like I just was looking back over this today and thinking like Tim Hardaway Jr. I think is having a great season, scoring a ton. Like, is the type of player the Lakers need, just who's going to get them up and like scare defenses from deep. Do you think you could get Rui from the Lakers for a package with Tim Hardaway in it and not have to give up that first?
I don't know that I would want to do that if I'm the Mavericks.
I just want there's your bigger forward though, that like, proved he could play well in a playoff run last year. And I feel like Hardaway is just not, he's having a great year, but like, I don't think he's giving them a ton of what they really like can't get from other guys. Maybe would be the way I'd put it.
Their most bankable shooter once you trade TH.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to hope for just having Luka and Kyrie means you could get like decent like production out of guys getting wide open looks all the time. So like, I take you're right though. Like Hardaway is clearly the best shooter there. I wonder if like, I don't know, do we trust Josh Green? Josh Green can make a three. Like
What a ringing endorsement from you.
I mean, he's actually shooting a higher percentage than THJ, but it's about a third the volume. So that's not, I guess we don't believe in Dante Exum.
It's not that I
Yeah.
don't believe in him. His defenses aren't going to guard him in the play.
Yeah.
Like he's played well enough for long enough now where it's okay. You have to buy it. Like Derek Lively. We're sure that Derek Lively is a hell of a basketball player already, but how are defenses going to treat Dante Exum when they're like in the playoffs? Excuse me.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Like when you try to think about that scenario where it's like Dante Exum could win him a playoff game and hit like 8 threes, right? Go like 8 of 13 because they don't guard him. And then like the next time out, they're still not going to guard him. They're going to say, because not only is it unlikely he'll win him that game, there's no way he's doing it 4 times. So that's just like how good of it's so hard to change your reputation as a shooter. We should get to Denver. That's too big of a topic.
What's your most likely player to be traded for this team?
That's a good question. Is it Josh Green? I'm trying to because you can't get off Rashawn Holmes without paying.
Right.
Josh Green seems like the kind of, although he's poison pilled. That's a stupid answer. I don't know. Who's yours? Let me keep looking while you give me yours.
I had Rashawn Holmes anyway, to where it's just
don't you think it's too hard to move him?
You probably have to compensate at this point, but can you look at it and say, well, is it Grant Williams at this point? Like that would be really awkward because you look at it and maybe for salary matching purposes, it should be Tim Hardaway Jr. I just think he's too important for you. And so you're not dealing with any monster. I was trying to look at expirings like you're not dealing with it. Like Dwight Powell is going to be a Maverick for life. So it's just, I feel like maybe it is Rashawn Holmes where they try and do, it's sort of let's say if they got a Royce O'Neal or a Dorian Finney-Smith and you're compensating to get Dorian Finney-Smith and get off of Rashawn Holmes. Like it feels like it would be that situation just because Kleba conceptually still has a ton of value to them.
Yeah. He's just been so bad offensively, but yeah, no, I think, I don't know. There's not really a great answer here. Maybe Jaden Hardy because he gets used as like a sweetener or something for the type of team. Because then you can involve like bad teams and try to pluck, you send him a prospect that might actually be a lead ball handler type. I don't know.
Do you think they end up finally on the Mavericks as the banner pace for us? Do they still own their 2027 first round pick after the trade deadline? I'll say yes because I don't think Portland's going to move. If they move Jeremy Grant, it feels like there might even be an offer that the Mavericks get outbid for.
Yeah, you would think someone out there would do 2 firsts. I guess I have to. I say yes, and I hope it's yes because if they do give it up, it might be for like a Kyle Kuzma level, which we both have said like don't do that.
If you can get him without, like if Josh Green and Omax, like you can finagle it that way, then I consider it. I just don't know if he's enough of an upgrade defensively. Do you want to take us to? Well, or maybe I'll just start us off on the
whatever. Denver Nuggets.
They're a quick team. If they trust that Peyton Watson, Reggie Jackson, and Christian Brown are trustworthy in the playoffs, it's just a backup big for them. And even that is just Aaron Gordon's going to play the 5 in the postseason and Jokic is going to play 40 minutes a game. And so there's your 48 minutes of center play right there. It's a regular season innings thing. Now it's just backup bigs. There's value in that, getting an upgrade from DeAndre Jordan and the ghost of Zeke Naji. The issue with them is they have 15 guaranteed contracts on the books. And when you're looking at players they could get rid of, they're not just going to get rid of any of the youngsters they gave guaranteed money to for anyone. That includes Hunter Tyson or Julian Strother. And then Lako Chanchar is injured, but he's also Jokic's homie. And so you're probably not going to trade him. It's basically we have Justin Holiday to cut or move his matching salary. And it's, because I think DeAndre Jordan's not someone, push comes to shove, maybe, but you value him for his locker room presence. And he did posterize, he posterized Giannis the other night. And so maybe he's making the comeback there. I think it's Justin Holiday is the most likely player to be moved or to get that out of the way, just because it feels like there's no other real option. Now, when you're looking at backup bigs who make very little money so that it becomes easy to make the money work, I liked Xavier Tillman for this team, and I still do. I just think he's less likely to be moved now or it'll take more to get him now that Steven Adams is gone from Memphis. They've still telegraphed that they want to keep Smart, so they still have those luxury tax concerns entering next year as Desmond Bane's deal kicks in. So I like Xavier Tillman. I would love, here's one though, Dario Saric here with the Warriors kind of treading water in the middle of nowhere. They don't have his bird rights. He's on a minimum. That's someone who could play with Jokic if you really wanted to, or like him and Aaron, like he could play the 5, he could play with Aaron Gordon in the smaller units. I don't know how much playoff burn he would get, but as a regular season innings eater, I think he might be my favorite backup big option for this team.
Yeah, he's the top of my list too. I totally agree. I think in the interest of I don't want to shortchange the Denver fans, but they know what's going on here. Like
they've been neglected. We'll have to do a deeper dive into them at some point, but like the Nuggets are just such a it's wake me up in May when they're definitely still
that's true
because they're my title pick.
It's been unfair because they're just like sort of they're really good. Like nothing that happens in the regular season short of catastrophic injury is going to make me think they're any less of a title contender. That
You can't. There's nothing you could. I know people try and feign concern about like some of their losses or like their slot. After watching the last 6 weeks of them or whatever last year, and then them just turning on the Jets in the postseason, I'm just like, nope, they're fine.
They're it. So what I was gonna say was, what is the percentage chance that this team does absolutely nothing at the trade deadline? Because I think it's like 95. They're not gonna.
I'll take the over.
Yeah. All right. Therefore, we should move on because there's nothing.
I mean, there's like if you're looking at other backup bigs, it's like Gogo Batadze is not playing in Orlando anymore. Orlando Robinson, if Miami's just like kind of doing weird things. I like Mamu for them from San Antonio because he can kind of do. He won't give you any defense, but he's really crafty. But you have to ask yourself, are any of those guys worth giving up second round equity for? And I think with Dario Saric, I'd absolutely do it just to fortify my title chances and my depth for the regular season.
Yeah. Although you have to remember too, you'd have to trade somebody else's second rounders because Denver's second rounders are going to suck for the foreseeable future. Those are like guys that never make the league in the, they 58.
They actually have Toronto's 2025 second. Oh no, that's Dallas. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong team. So they have Charlotte or Minnesota. They have Minnesota's second round pick is like the inbound pick they have. So yeah, I don't know.
All right.
That's a good time.
Let's go to the Warriors, which
this is your show, man.
No, this is another team. They're a little more interesting, but I think the chances of them not doing something are also pretty high. Not Denver high, but high. So just zoomed out, the Warriors are like, they're in a position where they can be a buyer if they want to. And I think there's a lot of support for that to happen just because of we owe it to Steph Curry angle. This is a very expensive team. What are you doing if you're not trying to be more than like outside the play-in team? If it costs this much, like we gotta keep going. Maybe good money after bad situation. They could sell. They could, which would mean, I'm not sure. Like you try to move off Wiggins for cap flexibility. You try to, just sort of get a little leaner and meaner going into the offseason and make the real run next year. Or you can do nothing and hope the guys that have underperformed just get better. Or in Klay Thompson's case, come back next year for half the salary he's currently making, stuff like that.
Hopefully it's less than half for their sake.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. 20 million a year seems okay, but yeah, I think they're going to have to give him at least 20 because otherwise I think you might actually risk him just being too prideful and somebody will give him more than that. Maybe. I don't know.
Shout out Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit's out there just like whose statue ceremony 5 years from now can we ruin, right? They could do either thing. We can get into it in depth if you want, but like my position is I don't think it makes sense to do anything other than see what you can turn Chris Paul's contract into, and maybe you move Moses Moody, and maybe you, I don't know, take calls on Wiggins, but like other than that, you're not trading Draymond. They're not going to trade Steph. They're not going to trade Klay. So it's a kind of do stuff on the margins, and that's unsatisfying because it means unless they really turn it around somehow over the last 30 games, they're going to be a play-in team, and that's about it, right?
They should, if that's the route they're going to go, is kind of stasis. They should, if they can get a good second for Dario Saric, they should absolutely do that.
Yeah,
I could also see the Wiggins thing becomes more interesting because if I know Wiggins has played a little better, but like if this is Jonathan Kuminga now and you trust him, do you just look to move Wiggins for an expiring contract because you talk about moving Chris Paul, where the thought process would be, let's roll that salary slot into someone who's more useful for us. Mm-hmm. That's going to require additional equity on your part. And so are you willing to give up Moody picks to get someone? And I think for the right player who can be a part of their program in the years to come, a DeJounte Murray, and I'm not saying I would give up everything for these players, but a Wendell Carter Jr., who that's not really a Chris Paul trade unless you're also taking back Gary Harris or Jonathan Isaac or whoever. Like, if you can get players like that, even I've thought about Alex Caruso a little more for this team just to like get
So
that
have
deep.
they for a long time.
So that's someone who could guard 1 through 4. Yeah, that costs you Moses Moody in a first round pick, let's say, but his salary is conducive to your expenses next year because he's just not making that much. And he helps you. So like those are moves that I think they should be monitoring just because, yeah, they're not a team where you look at their assets right now, they're not going to get that much better over the offseason. It's, oh, we opened up a 2031 swap because they already, or because like the 2030 pick, they could still trade. They top 20 protected. So they could be like, hey, we'll give it to you if it falls within 1 through 19 or 1 through 20. It's like that card's already there. So since their asset chest doesn't actually improve that much over the summer, you could argue if they're not going to bring back Chris Paul, their war chest is even emptier or it's getting shallower because they don't have that matching salary to offer. So I would look at doing something like that. And I think my 2 favorites for them, I mean, I would love Wendell Carter Jr. there. I just feel like the Magic aren't going to move him. Would be DeJounte Murray and Alex Caruso. I talked to you about Denny Avdia and Onyeka Okongwu. They're poison pilled, so there'll be some extra legwork involved. And those aren't guys I want to throw the farm at. But like if you can get a Caruso or a Murray, it's not about just this season. They would help you. You get into the play-in and then you're better. But if you can get them for, if it's Moody plus a first round pick and salary, and that gets those deals done, I'm absolutely jumping at those opportunities.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting that like, and this is another team, well, they deserve a little more time than Denver just because there's more going on. But like, I kind of think internally, and this is just my sense of it, because it might also be what I kind of think, like they think we don't need Alex Caruso because once Gary Payton's healthy, like it's the same guy, you know, like he does the same things. And why would we trade Moses Moody? Because we still believe in him. And like, I think in some sense, like, and I don't know that that's irrational. Any of those things are irrational to think, but I think deep down, they probably believe we need to just kind of bring this group back next year and pay Clay less and turn Chris Paul into something else. And we're going to be right back in it. And it's like, I kind of almost understand how you could believe that, but it also seems insane because they're under 500 and, you know, Steph's been healthy most of the year. Like it's crazy to believe that, but I think there just doesn't, I feel like what I'm trying to say is it's got to be pretty easy for them to look at a move for someone like Caruso or if someone of that level and just be like, I don't know, why are we giving up anything? That doesn't change anything.
I do think the bigger deal would be though. So you mentioned Chris Paul. Do you think they would be willing to then guarantee his salary or part of his like?
It's like
so that or I guess you could just bring him back at a smaller number. Like, would they be willing to do that to where it's still expensive and so they can use him? Because otherwise the move needs to be this season then.
Yeah, right. It's interesting. It's like that contract is still valuable, but it's sort of tricky. Like it's hard to figure out how they're going to get the most value out of it. Because
if you've watched their offense, their offense kind of needs him, which is scary.
Moment. I mean, it's just that like, how much can you realistically count on a guy his age to just not have this happen all the time from now on? Just you know, he's just I don't know. This was kind of another freak injury, so it's a little unfair. But like, you know, he's closer to 40 than you'd like for someone who's super important to your offense. So maybe the move is like he does come back for a renegotiated cheaper deal. I don't know. I think there's still probably teams out there that would pay him more than the Warriors would if he were negotiating freely and not being traded. But I don't know. It's a little bleak, but it's just kind of like, I don't think there's not a trade that makes them a contender. What makes them a contender somehow is the guys that they already have, including Clay, just become the 21, 22 versions of themselves. And you keep this version of Kuminga. And like, you know, he continues to just climb the like ladder of important players in the franchise. So, you know,
I'm fine with that path as long as if you're willing to guarantee or pay Chris Paul next season so that you roll that salary slot.
Yeah.
I think I'm a big believer in needing that salary slot for them. Yeah. The Houston Rockets, who have already made a trade, they traded 3 first-round picks. Really only 2 of them are like kind of consequential for Steven Adams, who is not going to play this season. It cost them 3 second-round picks, and Victor Oladipo. I don't think that telegraphs. I think some people viewed it as, do they still not believe in Alperen Sengun? And it's like, no, Alperen Sengun plays 32 minutes a game. Steven Adams will be 31 next year. He can play the other 15, 16 minutes, and he's making backup center money at this point. And then you also have, you've turned the Victor Oladipo salary slot, which was expiring, into a 12.6 million or whatever Steven Adams is making. That's what it felt. This player, we could technically use him to upgrade the backup big rotation, but he also becomes this trade chip next year. This season specifically, I could still see them doing stuff though, because their pick is owed to Oklahoma City with top 4 protection, and they're kind of on the periphery of the play-in. And so what can they do to improve their odds there? I think it needs to happen on the offensive end. They're a team that, I don't even remember, I sent you a list of trade targets for everybody. I didn't include him on there, but I would absolutely consider taking a look at DeJounte Murray, depending on the cost, because him and Van Vliet and having Brooks and then Tari Eason, imagine that, those 4 defensively, and then just put Şengün out there. But I think they need shooting and just like a higher level offensive player.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's interesting that like the need, Jalen Green has had some of his best games of the year recently. Right. And I think the Adams move is interesting to compare to the ones we're talking about hypothetically, because like if you go get a shooting guard, are you maybe like kind of coming over the top of Jalen Green? And if you go get like a wing that's a little bigger, are you kind of different positionally, but like you can come over the top of Dylan Brooks and reduce his role maybe, but like you don't want to mess with Jabari Smith's minutes and role maybe. But Adams is perfect because like he's not a threat to play ahead of Şengün. He'll just be the muscle that comes in and bangs around matchup specific. Like that's a perfect kind of trade for a young team that's good and wants to like get what it needs down the road. I just like I love the idea of just giving all the draft equity back for Mikal Bridges. Like let's just do that.
And they tried that per Michael Scotto of Hoop Tight. And I a lot of people said the Nets should do it. There has to be a level of just like embarrassment where it's this team gives you an aggressive offer and it's just all your own stuff back.
But
for this
still,
really
like,
good player.
I thought where I thought you were going with that was there has to be a point where the Nets just say, we can't keep turning down these incredible offers from Mikal Bridges. Like we got to say yes. If this is really true, where like, 4 or 5 picks are out there multiple times, or 5 was like a hypothetical, but 4 or like whatever the Nets or whatever the Rockets might get back, you might just need to say yes at some point.
So is Jalen Green and 2 of their first round picks too much for Mikal Bridges is the framework? I don't think it is.
I'm not sure. That's really tantalizing. I think if I'll tell you how stupid I am. If Jalen Green hadn't had like a couple of really nice games recently, I would have been like, do it immediately. But now I'm thinking like, oh, what if Jalen Green does turn out to be really good? I don't think that's likely. I think he's a Zach LaVine type, where there's a ceiling.
Oh, Zach LaVine was never really good. Wow.
Well, nobody wants him. Barren landscape, desolate, deserted. Yeah, what is it? Whatever we said.
I think my Saint. So the other thing they could do is, because Steven Adams isn't playing this year, like they could look to upgrade the backup big spot with another expiring contract. Like Kelly Olynyk
perhaps
would be good. I think my favorite trade target for them, though, I mean, it's Mikal Bridges, because there'd be high comedy there if the Nets are getting their own picks. And he's also a good fit, but someone who he can come over the top of a bunch of different people based off their defensive personnel. I haven't seen him mentioned. I love Bojan Bogdanovic for this team. Am I missing the mark there?
I don't. Yeah, no. I think that. I don't understand why. His name has been around, but I feel like the most recent conversations I heard about him were like, he's a little. You can't defend, and it's like, how do we go from everybody wants this guy to maybe we're talking him down? I think he'd be a great fit there. I think he'd be a great fit lots of places. I still think Detroit's going to get something good for him, assuming they trade him. I
would give up. I would protect it and like make it lottery protected, and then you have like maybe 2 cracks at it to get it. But like I would have. I mean, he's going to turn. What does he turn? 35 in April. He's 60 true shooting on a team that doesn't really put him in the best situations. 22 points per 36 minutes, 41.4% from 3, 51.7% on 2s. He has some self-creation to him. He's actually shooting a career low at the foul line at 77%. So it's like, this is just, and then you have that, okay, we can either pay him $2 million to go away, or we just have this $19.6 million expiring contract on the books for next year. And with Houston specifically, some teams might run into defensive problems, but it's, if you want to play him as your de facto 4 or your 3 or even your 2, like you have Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet and Tari Eason and Amen Thompson and Jabari Smith Jr. and even Şengün's been better defend. Like you could just move him in all these different combinations. And he's also the type of player we're seeing in Detroit now, in part because they don't want to get rid of him. He doesn't infringe upon anybody's development.
No. All right, most likely player to be traded. You can't say Victor
Uh,
Oladipo. That's what we
I,
definitely would have said if we'd recorded
Jock
this.
Landale.
That's got to be it, right? Because
Yeah,
he's got the weird non-guarantees on what 3
we
of the
didn't do
4
that for
seasons.
the Warriors. Who's there most likely? Is it Paul or Moody? I think maybe it's Sharich. Is it just Sharich?
No, I bet it's. I feel like it's probably Moody. I feel like it's
Come
Moody.
on,
I don't know. I don't know why I feel that way.
Looney. Is that who you said?
No, Moody. Like if you're another team and you look at how badly Looney has moved this year, and you also know that like he's so limited and only kind of works with certain players around him. What his trade value is so low relative to his value to the team he's on. Yeah, it's got to be Landale. Jeff Green's up there, maybe if
Clippers.
like.
You're talking about Jeff Green. It's time for the Clippers.
I mean, we've talked about far more obscure players than Jeff Green.
Well, I think they want him for the locker room presence.
That's true. That's true. All right, let's now we're on to the Clippers. I agree with you. Obviously, buyers. I think this is one where putting this list together like a few weeks ago, like this was before we were all 100% sure. Like, oh my God, this team is what's got it all. Like, what do we need to do here? I still think like PJ Tucker feels like someone they could move to, you know, if he's not going to be the change of
actual PJ Tucker.
yeah, right. This is one of those situations where you got to find, can you trade him for PJ Tucker 5 years ago? Because the other guys you might think about with moving their salaries, like Norm Powell, too valuable, Terrence Mann, too valuable. Like that's not the way to go get the tiny role you want filled by the PJ Tucker type. So could do nothing. I mean,
I would argue we asked Keith about this, and maybe it's doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but after this season, if they're going to stay in that second apron, and they extended Kawhi. A lot of people expect they're going to re-sign Harden and Paul George if he opts out or doesn't extend, I would assume. You can't aggregate salaries. You can't take back any more money than you're sending out. So it's like, now is that you can aggregate, you could take back a little bit more money, and you have your 2030 pick to deal. I'm not saying you have to deal it. Maybe it's a matter of getting someone with seconds and we can go through targets. But like, my favorite target for them is PJ Washington, because I'm with you. I think they need kind of the small ball 5 option, but can they also play next to one of the bigs so that you're ensuring they can play the max amount of minutes possible? PJ Washington's had an uneven year. I still think he'd be really good for this team. And he's someone who, in theory, his role might be smaller, but it's the DeJounte Murray equation where, well, we could actually use him as value in another trade to where his money by itself at 100% matching is still going to get us $16-17 million, and he has real value. So he's my favorite target, but you have to be willing. I don't think Charlotte, especially if you're including PJ Tucker, like you're not going to get him for second. So you'd have to be willing to, would you do Tucker, salary, and that first? I'd protect it, I think, for PJ Washington. I think I would do it.
I think it's so distant though, that 20, because I mean, they're not probably going to be any good then. Maybe you have to. I feel like I'm a little, PJ Washington's like right below, like Jeremy Grant was above the line for us to do it now. First round pick trade. I feel like Washington might be a little below it. But
so you're more like, there's not a player out there for them that would be worth that, given the role they're going to assume.
I'm trying to think of like who it would even, all the targets that you've got are, right on that, like Santi Aldama is another one, like Olynyk. Washington's
those
probably
are all non-first round, I think, players, which are great then.
Yeah. I mean, your guy, Chris Boucher, just come in and shoot some threes.
Not making them at the moment or the past 3 years, really.
That is such an important lens, though, to keep in mind for teams like the Clippers, where they're like, you got to maybe do some things now, even if it doesn't feel like a great idea, just because you're going to be so restrained going forward that this is your last shot. So like maybe the answer is like, yeah, PJ Washington is the right call, because this first like kind of might disappear, like, or we kind of lose a bunch of options if we don't do it now. So I don't know.
Here's a hypothetical, and I think we went through all the names that we have for that. I mean, Maxi Kleba, if he's really done, you might as well take a flyer out like PJ Tucker in seconds. I don't know why the Mavs necessarily do that. You're the Hawks. And the Clippers come calling and they say, we're going to give you this 2030 pick completely unprotected. And it's Jalen Johnson for Amir Coffey.
I don't think the Hawks would do that. Okay. I'm not sure if they should. But I mean, Jalen Johnson. Well, how about this? If we're starting to talk about trade offers for Jalen Johnson, the Hawks immediately call the rest of the league and say, "Can you beat 1 first for Jalen Johnson?" And the rest of the league says, "Yeah."
Unprotected though is like I know that. Yeah, I know that like Landry Fields is probably going to be running the show at that point. So that's definitely, I mean, the Pelicans would beat that, but just there might not be teams that are willing to, because he's about to be paid. There might be teams that are scared of that, which is why Atlanta would move him in the first. He's going to get, if I told you $27 million a year, I think I'm taking the over. If you told me $27 million a year, I'm taking the over.
I haven't thought enough about, I mean, like in the 20s for sure.
That is one of the least hot takes you've ever had.
I'm just trying to see where I'm comfortable and then like nudge up to like 25. I don't know, maybe 26. Yeah, no, I think the Clippers, if I'm the Clippers, I do that 10 times out of 10.
Oh, you would? That's okay.
If I'm the Hawks, I'm like, I don't know. I could do better than that for Jalen Johnson.
The Lakers.
Do we do most likely to be traded?
Oh, it's got to be Tucker, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Even though he's also probably the toughest player to move for them, theoretically.
Right. If he was expiring, it'd be totally different. But that player option, that's tough for 24-25.
So the Lakers have the same dilemma as the Mavericks, whereas based off the names that are out there, are you waiting to when you could trade your 3 first-round picks plus 3 swaps plus Dawson Reeves? Like that's your Godfather offer, or are you going out and making the move now? And the answer is that you don't have Luka and even Kyrie, who's younger. You make the move now. If it's, I understand drawing a line because of his injuries and his contract with Zach LaVine, where it's, we will give you our 2029 first or Austin Reeves. Like you don't get both. I understand drawing that line, but like if you can get DeJounte Murray for what you're able to offer, go get DeJounte Murray, in part because he's younger and he'll be valuable as a trade chip if you need to move him later. and I want to know where you land on this. This team needs offense. It needs shooting. It could use another creator, even with D'Angelo Russell having just one of those, I don't give a fuck, scorching hot stretches. Like I'm being restrained in Zach LaVine talks. I'm involved in them though, if I'm the Lakers, because you need that type of player. And I don't know that I listed Bojan Bogdanovic for this team would make a lot of sense. I don't like, did they even have enough to do the in-between stuff? Like if you could get away with a swap and Jalen Hood-Schifino and Max Christie and salary for Bojan, I don't think the Pistons do that. So they're almost only built to do something a little bit nuclear.
Yeah. And I think like the LaVine to me, like really does. And like it's well documented, not the biggest LaVine fan. Think he's overcompensated, a little overrated, like great shooter, great scorer. Like, I don't like him on a lot of teams, but specifically on the Lakers, it makes sense to me. Like he's just, he like the knocks on him are 1, not a good defender, inattentive. And 2, he's like a functional passer, but he doesn't make the types of passes that like dramatically improve an offense and like add flow to it. He's not making like next level reads. He gets the assists because he's got the ball a lot and he draws attention and he can make like the basic passes, but he's not like, he's just not like a let's start the churn type of passer. So that's fine because the Lakers have a good defense and they have the type of veteran personnel, LeBron specifically, that like in the biggest moments, he'll make the decisions. Like, and he can set LaVine up for easier shots than he would otherwise get. So like he makes sense there. Can you get him for a first and not include Austin Reeves? I don't know. I mean, the longer this goes on and the more hurt LaVine seems to be, maybe you can, but after that, like Murray's obviously the much cheaper alternative. I like Terry Rozier there before he ended up moving. It's all just shooters and scorers. And I think it's a little like the Warriors situation in that like there may not be a trade that makes them a contender because they're just not that close to that level as it is. But the LeBron thing makes it so that you're just a little more, risk tolerant for that kind of thing. So you just probably go for it.
So I have a trade proposal for a target that has not been talked about with them. I'm just curious as to what you think.
All right, let's hear it.
You go D'Angelo Russell.
I like it already.
D'Angelo Russell's killing it at the moment.
I'm out. You know that.
And there'll be a different permutation of this deal if you say no to it.
Okay, so D'Lo, Hood-Schifino.
Yes, Max Christie, that 2029 first round pick, and let's say unprotected or at most top 1 protection. And then all the swaps that you can give, which is, I think, 2026 and 2030.
Okay, so 2 swaps.
For Cam Johnson.
Wow, talk about someone I have not thought of as a Lakers target. So Brooklyn is giving up Johnson, getting D'Lo and 2 young guys, a first and 2 swaps.
Yes.
I think Brooklyn probably should do that. And then should the Lakers do that? Is that a big enough?
Would you rather include Austin Reeves than D'Lo if you're the Lakers in that scenario, or do you just trust that like we have Reeves and Gabe Vincent will get healthy, or we'll get Chris Paul or Kyle Lowry on the buyout market?
There is no scenario where I'd put Reeves in that deal over Russell. If I'm the
no,
Lakers.
I'm wondering, would the Nets prefer like Russell's? They could actually
the Nets would absolutely prefer Reeves. They would have to, right? Like there's just. Am I crazy? Like I don't know if you're trying to.
No, I think you're right, but it's just if they're looking for an actual creator, that's not necessarily. If I'm the Nets and you include Reeves and that first round pick and the swaps, and then we're just getting to salary, I think I don't know if I would do it still. I'm curious as what like Cam Johnson is. He's better defensively than people think, although he's not a very good rebounder. But you have LeBron and AD. Like you're all of a sudden really big again on the front line in a way that Darvin Ham can't refuse to play big. And like you kept, I think it gets. You have diluted your creation. You've improved your shooting and your optionality. And so it's, well, will Gabe Vincent be healthy this season? Or do we trust that we're going to get, like, if you trade D'Lo without getting another point of attack creator, like Kyle Lowry is just going to end up on the Lakers at that point.
I mean, that's fine. I think,
all right.
Yeah, I'm good with that. No, I just, you're what you're saying about if you don't replace what D'Lo provides, you do lose a lot, but it's like Lakers kind of, cut him out of the rotation in the playoffs last year several times. Granted, you had more support. You had Schroeder, right? I think playing a much larger role. You had Lonnie Walker coming in and winning a playoff game, and Reeves was handling too. So I just like, I think
you can do is like that deal can be expanded to where if you think that's too much compensation, well, if you're also getting because you have Rui, and the Nets could use a bigger forward if they're getting rid of Cam Johnson, and you fold Dorian Finney-Smith or Royce O'Neal into this deal,
man. Yeah.
So because I don't know where you landed. It seemed like you were a little bit more reticent to do it if you were the Lakers.
I was just trying to go and think of like, could that package get something better? And because I was still thinking like the types of players I kept thinking about for targets were like more like 2 threes than 3 4s. So I had like the Gary Trents on there and the Bogdan Bogdanovic and Jordan Clarkson and Bruce Brown, guys that like could run around and score and do a bunch of other stuff, but nobody of Johnson's size. That you're right. That hasn't been like a positional type that people have kind of talked about for the Lakers, I guess.
I'll frame it to you this way: if you're,
I might do it. I think I'd do it if I'm the Lakers.
Just for Johnson, or would you need like DFS?
Oh, I'd love it to expand to get DFS in there if you want to throw.
But you're saying you do it without. I guess I'd probably try and push to get Royce O'Neal in there at least.
Yeah, I don't think you'd run it like shouldn't be a deal breaker for Brooklyn if you're asking for.
So what would your preference be if it cost you Reeves and your first to get DeJounte Murray or this package for Cam Johnson?
That's interesting. I think I might still like Reeves more than most. So I think I'd probably rather do the Cam Johnson one.
I think I'm with you because it's so I believe it's so easy to fold Royce O'Neal into it. And maybe that's like me just being too confident.
Maybe so, yeah. But no, I mean that trade addresses more. I'm
glad it was at least a thinker for you. I thought you were gonna. I was like, is he gonna laugh or just dismiss it? But I'm glad you had to think about it.
Do we do most likely to be traded?
Who is most likely to be traded on this team?
I mean, Russell signed a contract specifically designed to be traded. Basically, it seemed to me, right? That's.
Could you see a scenario in which they're like, well, he's playing really well. We don't need to move him for DeJounte Murray or Zach LaVine. We're just going to ride with this and make it. So,
I mean, maybe, but then I don't know who I pick as the next most likely to be traded.
As Gabe Vincent's injured, I'd still take a shot at him if I was a certain team. And then Rui's deal, I just don't like.
You can't trade Vanderbilt, right?
No, not this season.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'll just stick with D'Lo. I don't like any of the other options that much. Let's see. So that takes us to Memphis, yeah?
Weird situation. They can't care. They're just so banged up. John Morant's done for the year. Everyone on this team is injured right now. But they did put themselves in a weird situation where, okay, Xavier Tillman's entering free agency this summer. We've gotten rid of Steven Adams. Brandon Clark might return at some point this season from his Achilles injury. And if he doesn't, we're not going to know what he looks like. And so, like, what is our front court rotation? I think they should still be before all these injuries happen. I was very much of the mind that even if you think this season is cooked, you should be on the lookout for players you can think can be a part of your long-term program. If it's a Jeremy Grant, for instance, just give up the value now so that he's there. I'm probably not there anymore, just given the scope of what they're dealing with. See where your lottery pick ends up, see who becomes available. Like, whereas the Mavericks, if you have the best offer for Jeremy Grant now, there's no guarantee that it exists in the summer. If you have the best offer for Jeremy Grant now as the Grizzlies, you can still get to the best offer for Jeremy Grant over the summer. So I just think they kind of need to be like in flyer mode, or again, do we just get a cheap big because maybe we want their bird rights in the case of Andre Drummond having his early bird rights, or just a different big or frontline partner who can pair with Jaren Jackson Jr. next year, since we don't know, will Tillman leave? What does he cost? And what does Brandon Clark look like?
Have we talked about moving Smart? Did we talk about that?
They have not talked about it because they don't want to do it. And I think that the Adams deal kind of telegraphs that they're not going to, because one, you're going to take a little bit of a bath since Smart is injured right now, didn't play well this season. And two, you don't worry about, they're in a position now to where if they decline Luke Kennard's team option, they can just duck the tax entirely while keeping Marcus Smart and having Baines pay grade increase.
Yeah. How about Kennard to the Magic for John Isaac? And so you could chip in whatever you need on either side to make that happen. Because I think Orlando should. Kennard is a player type that makes sense there. Not necessarily as a starter, certainly, but like, and then Isaac is a flyer. Although, like, is he a flyer anymore? It's just, he's going to be really awesome on defense if he's healthy. That's
for like 14 minutes a game, right. You can guarantee, and like how many games a year?
You don't know those.
Him and Jaren Jackson Jr. in the front court. Talking about just on the court, people, not endorsing Jonathan Isaac's political views for anyone who is worried about that. I would want to see it.
You but get away with so much with your other big
shooting. So to give up shooting and like that now to what, like I said, John Conchar time next year. Maybe they're banking on getting better with shooting. I mean, they have Desmond Bane, they have Triple J, they have Ja. Smart will shoot it. It might not go in, but he will shoot it.
I think if you have a player like Jackson that, can win Defensive Player of the Year as a big and shoot threes, it's like carte blanche to like get nuts everywhere else, which means like John Isaac's a weird fit on a lot of teams. He's a hard player to offensively. There's no fit issue on defense because he can do anything, but on offense, you should have him on a team that has a guy like Jaren Jackson or like Miles Turner or like Brooke Lopez, or just like, that's such a luxury where a guy can defend at the center spot and shoot threes that you almost are obligated to be like, what can we get away with that other teams can't at the other big spot? And Isaac is like that type.
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, can you imagine him next season? Isaac, Smart, and look, Isaac could be an expiring contract. He's not guaranteed for next year, so you could view it as. But I would love to see him and Triple J defensively, and then with Smart healthy caked in, which we could technically see this season, that'd be huge. Just two other names I'm munching on very quickly since they're in flyer mode. Let's just say the Nuggets need a roster spot, and you're still in this situation as Memphis where you need like these wings or combo forwards. Can they move any of these seconds and say, yeah, we'll take Hunter Tyson? Like, that's someone that will come in and see what they can do. Or I really like, I don't know why the Thunder would trade him. It would be because they acquired another big and maybe they need a roster spot, or, maybe they like Luke Kennard and they want another shooter on their team. So you fold into a bigger deal. Jay Will here next to Jaren Jackson Jr. can make a lot of sense too.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Julian Champagny was another one that I had. I don't know how many seconds it takes to get him out of San Antonio. He's making $3 million a year under team control for the next 4 seasons, I think.
Yeah, that was like the modern Hinkie special, I guess. Who do you think is most likely to be traded?
Now,
I would not have said Steven Adams, by the way.
I think it's Luke Kennard.
Yeah,
is who I would have said to begin with. Who would you have said?
I think it's either him or Zaire Williams. Probably Luke Kennard, just because I think Williams still got one of these days. Dan,
I could have talked myself into Xavier Tillman too, just because they were going to have to pay him this summer. But the Adams trade kind of like threw me for a loop with it.
Well, I'm sure I hate to make you rehash this, but like I was kind of surprised that Memphis. I think like because Oladipo is not ever going to play for them. I thought maybe Adams would just be healthy. They must know in Memphis like this guy's not going to be any good anymore.
They have his medicals, and the other thing is just like That's how I viewed it. But I also think that they are very cost conscious at this point. They
Yeah.
decided, well, now we don't have to grease the wheels of a dump where we might have to do that with Brandon Clark at this point. But it does feel like they are very concerned about what their payroll is going to. That's how I read it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right way to look at it. All
And I
right.
would say their plan as of right now, which maybe is why you wouldn't move Luke Kennard, is that are they just going to decline his team option and so that they have more wiggle room underneath the tags?
I don't know. Yeah, I still don't know what I totally think about the Adams thing, but I was just surprised.
I
Minnesota
understand the move
Timberwolves.
for the Rockets more than I did the Grizzlies. That's where I landed.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally, and maybe wrong if Adams is just like that. He's just not going to be healthy, but who knows?
I have a lot to say, if you don't mind, on the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I would love to hear it.
We talked about this with Keith. Any of the nuclear moves will come, maybe not even over the offseason, but could be in the middle of next year or leading into the 2025 draft, because that's how long you have to get out of these tax aprons. However, I want to reiterate this because we talked about this with Keith, is that they need backup shooting. They need a backup point guard because Mike Conley is way too important to this team. Even look, when Mike Conley plays without Anthony Edwards, like the numbers still aren't good on the offense. So they just need help. You are the best team in the Western Conference right now. There is no tomorrow for you. You do whatever it takes. I don't care how much money's on a play. Like, first of all, the Devon Carter stuff, if you're worried about his $6.5 million next year, like, then you should not have purchased this NBA team. And it's clear that things are a little bit tighter because they needed to loop in that third governor, owner, whatever phrase you're using these days. So I'm an advocate for, they don't have a first round pick to trade, but there are two names that they could get to if they're willing to put certain second round equity on the table. If you're willing to move on from Kyle Anderson for salary matching, and he looks expendable, quite frankly, at this point, Tyus Jones would be great for this team. And he jibes with the idea of, well, his contract's coming off the books. You kind of figure out what happens with him and Mike Conley in free agency. Mm-hmm. You know, the name I'm wondering, they can get there with the money because you have to, here's the catch. Malcolm Brogdon for this team. The money is huge. He's making 22.5 this year and next year. If your plan is to move forward with Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, are you willing to give up Naz Reid, Kyle Anderson for Malcolm Brogdon? Maybe it takes another second in there because I know Portland wanted first round equity, but Naz Reid's really, really, really good. Especially on offense. Like, I just think, I don't know whether I would have to think about it as Minnesota. I want to make that clear. But you're trying to win enough with the payroll stuff. Like, well, Naz Reid is cheap, and if we want to move Towns or we want to move Gobert, like, no, you have a chance to win the title this season. And I would argue Malcolm Brogdon gives you a better chance to do that this season than Naz Reid does. Is that fair or unfair?
I think that's totally fair. And I think, well, the main reason that the Wolves signed Reid to that contract is that he's a good player and he works works with either of their other bigs, and that's just what he's worth. But it was also like an asset preservation play to make a move like this from a position where you have a glut of bigs to a position where you just like you said, Mike Conley's way too important, and Brogdon could play with Conley or Edwards. Could start at either guard position. I think he would just matter more than I think you're right. I think he should matter more in a playoff run than Reid would, because hopefully all of your 4 or 5 minutes are split between Gobert, Towns, and even Jade McDaniels if you move him up a spot. And if you still have Kyle Anderson, then fine. But like Reid, I think, is a luxury, and they have a necessity situation in the backcourt. So I think maybe I don't think that's unfair at all to say that Brogdon would be more helpful.
I think most people's rebuke would be the money he's making next year, which I just can't bring myself to care about, would also just be, well, why do you give up that for someone who's not part of your closing lineup? And it's like, well, Naz Reid's not going to be, in theory, unless you have to play like toggle between Towns and Gobert against certain matchups. Yeah. He's not going to be part of your closing lineup either. And if he is, something has probably gone wrong.
Well, what's going to happen eventually is they have to move one of those big contracts. It's probably, probably Towns, maybe Gobert. I don't know. But like the difference between Naz Reid and Malcolm Brogdon financially is like, who cares? It's like a drop in the bucket when you're dealing with all these other max and super max level contracts. You can mess around with those marginal deals.
He's also insurance against if Mike Conley leaves in free. That's the other part of this.
There's a world where your guard rotation next year is like Brogdon, Edwards, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and you're just go for it. Like that's it. Conley's not guaranteed to be back. That might be the other cost savings that the cap tax saving move they make is just like, yeah, we love you, but we got to cut corners somewhere.
Other names though that would not cost you Nas Reed. Alec Burks makes a lot of sense for this team if it's just seconds in salary, especially I think Shake Milton and Troy Brown Jr. get you to Alec Burks while staying under the tax. And then they're a good Luke Kennard team. He costs a little bit more, but you could definitely figure out a way if you view Kyle Anderson as expendable to get him. And then a final target for them, Javon Carter. I know he doesn't give you as much ball handling and creativity as you like, but he's a good shooter and will defend his ass off.
Yeah. Different type of guard. I keep throwing Davion Mitchell around just as like a second draft guy. And like, he only works in Minnesota if Anthony Edwards really is just doing all the ball handling, because Mitchell would just be out there to guard.
I think you need your acquisition to either be a shooter and or a good ball handler, and like Davion Mitchell is neither of those.
He's neither, right? What about Markelle Fultz? There'd have to be a third team involved, because I don't know what Minnesota has that Orlando would want. But like, if Orlando does something else and brings in another guard, and it doesn't involve Fultz going out, I think he would be a pretty solid upgrade as not as a starter, obviously, but like he can play 22 minutes off the bench and just run second units.
That would be interesting, but he just makes so much money right now that's not a Nas Reed situation though. You could get there.
No.
What do they have enough? This is not in the point guard vein, but would they? I guess if Leonard Miller's on the table, do they have enough to get Quentin Grimes?
Oh, interesting.
They have the Memphis or Washington second round pick this year, plus a second round pick from Utah and a 26 second round pick from Indiana, Miami, or San Antonio, the least favorable of those. So I don't know what the. Go ahead.
Do we think Monte Morris is going to play this year?
Isn't he back?
Is he back? Oh, this shows that I haven't paid attention to the Pistons for a couple of weeks. What would it take to get him? Just come in and be. It doesn't solve.
They are intent on winning. Yeah, he's back. He's played. I thought I watched him play against the Clippers on Friday night.
Wait, how many games has he played? I just want to know how. Five? Okay, yeah. I don't feel too bad. I was on vacation.
So, that's seconds and salary.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Detroit might view it as, well, this is someone like in the vein of Bojan Bogdanovic. I think they're more likely to trade Burks than Bojan or Monte Morris, who's also from Michigan. And so it's like, factor that into it how you will. But he'd be great for that team.
All right, let's see. Would most likely to be traded? Some Kyle Anderson momentum, it feels like.
I think it's Shake Milton just because the number is like 5 and Jordan McLaughlin's usurped him in the rotation. I'll go with him.
That's true. I haven't seen. Yeah, McLaughlin's playing quite a bit lately. Okay, that's fair. Pelicans are next. It's just what are we doing with this team? I feel like I never have a handle on them.
The thing is just like they're not going to make any moves on the margins, because what does that do? They're kind of only built for like a mega trade anyway, because if you start to name any of their salary matching options, they're not just going to trade Dyson Daniels just because. So, and then what they need is so specific, because, okay, this person needs to be, I would say, no worse than the 6th best player on their team, given the assets that they would end up, just because look at all their bet. Like you get like Larry Nance Jr., Herb Jones, Jonas Valanciunas, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williams, CJ McCollum. You need the player you're acquiring, and Trey Murphy. I didn't even mention him. So like you need the player you're acquiring to be better than at least one or two of those guys. And I think what they need the most, and these guys, of course, grow on trees, is a frontline partner for Zion Williams who either provides vertical spacing or actual beyond the arc spacing while being an upgrade as a rim protector. And it's just like, who are the names there?
Well,
and
there's one.
You also need whoever's doing it to be better than Jonas Valanciunas or Larry Nance at minimum.
Yeah, that's been the need for how long? Right? Like I guarantee you, we've talked about this a half dozen times. Just they need the type of player that there just aren't any of, and it's really hard to get them. And Miles Turner's not coming. Chris Boucher could be had probably, but then like, how much better is he than? Is he better?
And look at the money. And also, you have to get to his $12 million or whatever. Who are you? There's no one who's like all of the players who are making $10 million or more. Larry Nance, Herb Jones, Jonas Valanciunas, Brandon Ingram, Zion, CJ. Like they're not throwaways for the Pelicans, right. And it's even like step laddering your way there. Oh, Dyson Daniels, Jordan Hawkins, Trey Murphy III. Those are the highest paid guys after Larry Nance. I don't like my whole thing is like, you might as well, if I'm them, what I'm trying to do is create my own trade market is basically where I'm at. And so these are the names I'll throw at you. Maybe you're already looking at them. They're a Jalen Johnson team. That's like,
Ooh.
we have low salaries and picks. That's the guy who is the shooting to be a little shaky, but he's done enough of it this year. Gives you some like optionality out of short rolls, a good secondary rim protector. Maybe they want someone who's actually bigger. What about Nick Claxton? The vertical spacing and the switchability, the rim protection from him. Going to be a free agent, though. I don't know how much they care about that. You love this name. I cribbed it from you. Wendell Carter Jr. would be good here.
I think the window to get him might be closing, though, because, there
Not
was a minute.
The Pelicans, is it?
No, I'm talking about from Orlando's perspective. Like, there was a minute there where it felt like he wasn't that important. You're like, oh, I mean, Goga? Well, sure. Like,
I more so meant it's like the window, like can't the Pelicans just create their own window? Like, they have an offer that could make the Magic think.
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure. I think the time to strike, like for the cheapest, the best value may have passed. But yeah, for sure. They could, of course, they and several teams, but the Pelicans have the need, could put something out there where Orlando's like, we don't want to trade this guy, but we sort of have to. If you're going to give me 2 firsts and a good player and maybe a swap or something, like that gets it done easy.
What about Onyeka Okongwu? Poison pill, but you could make it work.
Yeah, I think
like Dyson Daniels, I guess you would have to move Jonas or Larry Nance in that scenario, but like,
do you know how much I love Dyson Daniels on the Hawks? It's like
with Jalen Johnson, that'd be hellacious defensively. For sure.
Mean, that's the guy to put next to Trey. It'd be nice if he could shoot it, but like, it's nice that he also just doesn't have the expectation of getting shots. He's just out there to defend and pass the ball, and he's happy doing that. It's pretty solid.
Do you like Onyeka for New Orleans, or do you need someone who's, he has some floater touch and he'll give you the vertical element? Is he good enough defensively for you?
Is it Okongwu?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a little concerning that he hasn't really just stolen Clint Capella's job and kept it forever, isn't it? Like that maybe
that's like a Hawks thing more than an Okongwu thing.
I don't know. It's been going on. Maybe that's not
Clint Capella. His trade value plummets even more than it already has, and so this feels like an optical thing.
I mean, I don't think Okongwu necessarily passes your test of like he's got to be your 6th best player. I mean, he might be in.
I have a name if you haven't looked at the list yet.
No, I have. I'm trying not to. Did you say PJ Washington yet? That's another one I thought.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Do you think he's good enough defensively for them?
Nah, that's another. He may not pass got to be the top 6. That's a good test to have. We should keep that around.
Yeah, that's why I was like, okay, you could go get Kelly Olynyk, but what is the matching salary for that? You're not giving him Dyson Daniels.
No, the Jazz would be happy.
So here's one. I'm going to frame it as this: you're getting him because it seems like he's going to cost less than it was to obtain him on the team he's currently on. His contract is so good, he becomes integral in future trades if you want to build one, or because you do have to worry about Brandon Ingram pricing himself off this core. I'm DeJounte Murray for this team. You have the picks. You can get to the matching salary and a bunch of, like, you don't even need to move CJ McCollum for him. Now, the fit's wonky because it's, so you have CJ, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and DeJounte Murray, all who want to have the ball. But I'm like, it feels like it would sort itself out over time. And just as a pure asset play, like if it's a pick and Dyson Daniels, and then you need Larry Nance's, maybe it's not Larry Nance's salary, maybe it's someone else. I think I would just do it to have the asset roll over for me.
Yeah. I like the idea of Murray there a lot better in a post McCollum iteration of the team, because I don't like those two together necessarily.
Make a trade. You send McCollum to Atlanta with picks and Dyson Daniels to get Okongwu and DeJounte Murray.
We need to turn this into a 5-teamer, but I do like the Murray, Jones, Ingram, Zion, and a center look. That's pretty interesting. I don't like it with McCollum there. That's it, man. Of all the teams we've talked about for Murray, that's not one I've come across. I've been, because we're so focused on let's get a 5 in there that makes sense, but maybe that's like an impossible task, and we should move on. Who's most likely to be traded here?
Najee Marshall, it feels like, just because he makes so little, and will they pay him in free agency when they got to worry about, paying these other guys in the years to come? Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones has already gotten paid, even though it's a really good contract.
And like he'd just be higher on the depth chart, like on almost any other team than he is, I feel like, in New Orleans, just because of the depth, and the forwards and big guards they have all over the roster, which is a rare situation to be in as an NBA team.
Are you ready to spit fire on Oklahoma City?
Oh boy, yeah, this is a big one. They basically, Dan, can do anything they want. Are you aware of that? They have more draft assets than God and are really, really good. And so they should be in the market for, well, yeah, like more seriously, like, we could enumerate all of the first round picks. I forget how much it is. Like either they have 11 they can trade in 21 seconds, or Utah has 11 and they have 14, whatever it is. The Thunder have the ability to make a Godfather offer that like maybe only a couple other teams could match for literally anyone they want. I know both the idea of a bulky, like bruising physical 4-5 guy that you play with Chet to sort of mitigate the types of players that bother him, that just kind of overpower him so he can be shielded a little bit. And again, this is another like Jaren Jackson thing where Chet's shooting means you could do a lot of different stuff at that other front court spot. You can use that position to fill, to check boxes that you wouldn't otherwise be able to check with that position. Playmaking, physical defense, like all that stuff.
I agree with you what you said there. I'm also wondering, and this doesn't seem to check the box because they're such a good 3-point shooting team and such a good offense overall. How do you feel about the need for them to have another ball handler shooter type who could potentially help them more in the playoffs? And the genesis of that idea for me is, even when Josh Giddey is having his highs, teams are going to throw their opposing bigs on him and have them roam. And we've even seen games where it's like, oh, Lou Dort and Josh Giddey are both off the floor in crunch time. And so do you become a little bit more indiscriminate and say, we'll get whoever on the perimeter as long as they can close over one? Because right now it feels like, yes, ideally you have your top 5, or if you're looking at Isaiah Joe, Kenrich Williams, like between those 7, you have whatever closing unit you actually want. But if it's a question for both Dort and Giddey in certain matchups, like now it's time to be like, hey, we need to open up I understand we both would love Larry Markkinen here. We'd love to see them just be like, yeah, we'll make the Nets trade Mikal Bridges. They're not going to do that. And so we have to be more realistic here. But I also think that they're good enough to where you can't just let this marinate. Like, I'm not saying go out and get a star, but go get somebody. And if it's rolling over the Davis Bertans salary slot, and this is, I guess it's a complaint, but it's not. I don't ever want to be aggregated because I don't handle criticism makes me sad, and I'll just automatically assume I'm wrong when people get mad at it. But like, we got aggregated because Keith Smith mentioned John Collins as a trade target for them. Do you know how many times you and I have talked about John Collins as a trade target for the Thunder before that?
I know.
A bunch.
I don't. I like more than one for sure.
Yeah. And so it's just like, but it got, so I'm tied between, I don't really want to get aggregated to that thing. I don't know how Keith deals with having 100,000 followers.
First of all, I didn't know we got aggregated. So
we do get aggregated with Jazz content. An aggregation now is people quoting it on Twitter. The Jazz fandom is like pretty big about quoting us about our opinions on the Jazz. So shout out to them. But they also did aggregate stuff that Keith said, by the way. So
okay.
My point is, if you're going to just roll the Davis Bertans salary slot into a player who's on the books for next season and more useful, make sure that's someone then who's actually going to play. Yeah. And a John Collins that makes sense to me. But I have some other names here that I would like to throw at you.
Okay.
They're not star names. I'm going to go in reverse order. This one's not about this season, and it would be the most Sam Presti move possible. Robert Williams III.
Yeah. I kind of love that. I kind of love that. I did.
You have him for next season. You don't need him to play a ton of minutes. I want them to do something better, but like, if it's going to cost a first and one of your like Aaron Wigginses or like even Ousmane Jang's, Aaron Wiggins is playing great for them. That's like, they have so much talent. That's something I could see Sam Presti thinking about. I was just curious what you thought. That's as a long-term play.
No, I kind of love that. But I wanted to go back to what you said about, we fixated on this 4-5 thing, but like, it is the Giddey spot that you can just sort of try to upgrade in a number of different ways ultimately. Because it would involve trading Josh Giddey, probably, like, you definitely could get away from this deadline making meaningful improvements without giving up a bunch of firsts, because there are teams I think that would view Giddey as like, oh shit, like that's a real asset.
And Antonio would be all over
run our team. Like, this is a point guard that's 6'8". Like, that's awesome. We can figure out the shooting. And
I do wonder if the off-court stuff with the alleged relationship with a minor but we're seeing the pretty heavy interest from Detroit and Phoenix, maybe the Lakers and Miles Bridges, and he doesn't even have bird rights
Yeah.
Though the interest is still there. I feel like we have to just mention it. We're talking basketball fit purely, but I didn't want to not mention that.
No, it's probably still a factor for teams that are interested. No,
I'm not even saying trade him, by the way. I'm just saying, this is an excellent point by you, is it's not, well, we need another guard. Like, no, you can use, like, if you think John Collins is going to stretch the floor, provide you more rebounding in crunch time and just help you more than Giddey or Dort in certain matchups, that's a way to upgrade that spot. What do you think of I don't think you got into it with Keith. John Collins is on my list for that reason. He's not, I think I had him third. I won't spoil the other names yet. I had him third of 5 ranking them.
I don't love John Collins as much as Robert Williams is like really intriguing, but Robert Williams isn't going to help. Like if part of what we're talking about with the Thunder is like, which we have, I get it. You're young. You don't want to skip steps, but it's also like the window's open when it's open and you don't know how long it's going to stay that way. So is Robert Williams. Yeah. Robert Williams is the most Sam Presti thing ever because it's just another, like, let's get this, kick the can down the road. Let's get this asset for later.
So you like that idea though better than let's get Collins now? Is it because he has 2 years left in his deal?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems like just such the smart value play. Like that's a flyer that's so worth taking for them. Partly because they just have they're playing with so much house money. But Collins would help now. That's the thing.
Also, that probably doesn't cost you, at least not a real. Like it would be maybe your weakest first, or it's just a player who's already on the roster that's not mission critical to your. I don't know. Like Utah's not going to get unless they're taking on really bad money, and Davis Bertans could basically come off the books after next year with his partial guarantee. So I think the appeal would be from the Thunder's perspective is, well, we just get to roll over all our assets as well while upgrading a rotation spot.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of guys that make sense. I like Bruce Brown makes sense there. I think just as the Giddey spot upgrade, basically, or even Dort. If you're not comfortable closing with Dort, you throw Bruce Brown out there. You lose a little defense, but you get the shooting and playmaking. There's, and again, you can almost not throw out a guy that you'd say like, oh, they'll never get him. Like if you want Bruce Brown, you can go get Bruce Brown if you're the Thunder. That's not hard. So
Collins was 3 for me. Robert Williams was 5, just because if he was playing right now, he would be higher up for sure. Mm-hmm. Number 4 for me was Isaiah Stewart, poison pill, but he's just a try hard icon. And so he's not rebounding. He's injured right now, has an ankle issue. He's not rebounding as much in Detroit, but that's kind of what happens when you're playing alongside other traditional bigs. With Chet there, they don't really overlap with each other where they want to be. And Isaiah Stewart can still give you some 5-out setups, or you're just going to be playing him more at center in OKC, I would imagine. And so I like that as, that's another asset. He's not making a ton of money and he fits the ethos of go, go, go. And then I have 2 more who I like better. They're my top 2. Coming in at number 2 is Denny Avdia. Another poison pill for this team.
How different is he from Giddey?
A lot.
A million times better defender, but and I guess a better shooter. He is pretty different, but is he? I don't know why I'm talking down Avdia. It just struck me as they might have some similar hiccups as fifth guys in a. He's a better scorer. Yeah. From basically every level than Giddey right now. It's just the volume with him. Giddey's more willing to take shots right now, and so there's the value with that. This is my single most favorite target for them. Did you see it already? I did, but it's really good. Caleb Martin. Yeah. He's going to be a free agent because he has a player option, so maybe the Heat are worried about his price point. They're also within the realm of ducking the tax. The Thunder can't do it for them. They can compensate another team, though, to take on money that would help the Heat in addition to getting off Caleb Martin, whoever that would get them under the tax. I love Caleb Martin for this team. Yeah. The more I think about it. Just gap filling everywhere. You want him to upgrade the Dort spot. You want him to upgrade the Giddey spot. You want him to not close. Does everything. And he can play at 4 and he'll get you some rebounding as well. Yeah, I like that a lot. And just the toughness and the I don't know. I think the versatility and the toughness and the experience and I know we talk about his experience he's been in a million playoff runs, but I don't know. He's just built for it, He's been in the finals. So yeah, he's seen it at least a little bit. And they're a fascinating team. I hope they do something. Who's there most likely to be traded? Man, is it Poku? Is it? Is he going to get anything? Or is it Davis Bertans? Is it we really just believe they're going to roll his salary slot? Can we agree? Else? Can we agree? It probably should be Giddey, because I think I've already sort of decided I don't think he's a core piece going forward, and I think they should kind of feel that way too. I don't think Giddey is the most likely, but I think there's such a logical case for him being the guy that they. There's a case. I think
there's a risk reward basis of, well, we're moving him now. Like maybe it makes more sense over the summer when other teams are recalibrating their directions. But if you go through a playoff run and he's bad,
Right.
that's going to torpedo his value. However, if he's good, which we've seen him be really good, then his value's through the roof, or maybe you're involved.
Yeah, that's the problem you would prefer to have. Oh my God, he actually is really great. Like we'll work. We can work from there, as opposed to, oh, he tanked and now we can't trade him for anything. That's a worse problem. I would argue. I would go out on a limb.
I'm going to settle on Bertans. I think the Thunder will make a medium-sized splash. It won't be huge, but I think they roll over his salary slot.
Yeah, I think that makes sense for them. I'll go with you on that one.
This brings us to the Phoenix Suns, who really have nothing to trade. They don't want to trade Grayson Allen, and I get it. I think I've seen so many people, and shout out to the Timeline podcast. They've been all over this. They don't need, I know the turnover rate's an issue, but like they have some other stuff that I think is just going to normalize. Their turnover rate is fine when the big three are on the court. They've had some fourth quarter meltdowns, but I was looking, Grant, through the first 3 quarters of the game, they have an effective field goal percentage on wide open jumpers of about 63, 64. That plummets to 46 in the fourth quarter. And it's the second lowest behind only the Lakers, by the way. Shout out to the Lakers. There's just weird shit going on. I know defenses are like more inclined to put pressure on their best players, but I still just don't buy that they need another ball handler. I'm focusing more on, can they upgrade some of the wing spots or get an athletic big in here for what they can offer, which is very, very, very little.
Yeah, that I would like to. I didn't know that stat about the third quarter, the first 3 quarters versus the fourth quarter for them. You could spin that data another way though, and say like that is evidence that they struggle to create good shots. You know, I guess you're just talking about wide open.
They're getting wide open jumpers. They're not hitting them.
Well, okay, so then maybe it's because the playmaking load's too heavy on their best players, and they get tired, and that's why. I don't know. Yeah, it is interesting. You could say that's just they need depth. So you're not playing Kevin Durant 37 minutes and Booker 36 or something, and they're missing shots they'd normally make when they're tired. It's like the Luka thing where his splits were always terrible. You know, second half is worse than the first, fourth quarter is worse than all the others just because he's gassed. Yeah, no, you're right. Like they can they don't need to be confined to the point guard spot, especially when you consider like when they get to the games they really care about. Like, how many minutes are you giving this hypothetical backup point guard anyway? Like, you're going to sink or swim by giving all your best guys 40 minutes. So I don't know if that needs to be your focus. Alex Caruso would be awesome. I think DeLon Wright is more realistic, but they just won't have the tools to get. Even DeLon Wright might be someone that like, we can't do it. We don't have it. I don't know how they do anything significant.
Could they get? I mean, Najee Marshall would be good for them. You get into the gamesmanship of, would the Pelicans do something to help someone they consider a rival? Like
I need to know, like, because if you gave up, I don't know, if Nas Little is like your matching salary, do you have like what seconds can they even move? I don't have the list open in front of me.
I think the most intriguing seconds they have are Memphis's in 28 and 29 are the most intriguing seconds that they have.
20, yeah, because otherwise you're talking about Denver's 24, San Antonio's 24, but it has protection.
Yeah, I don't think it's specified yet. You know what I kind of contemplate a little bit for them is if the Heat were really looking to duck the tax, I want to see if Caleb Martin could fit into the campaign trade exception. He can't. It's so close. So if the Heat were really gung-ho about ducking the tax, I mean, you could send out salary, but now you need to compensate other teams to get to it. So that would be like super duper way too ambitious. I have Royce O'Neal. They could get to his money, and because they have seconds, like if you got both those Memphis seconds as Brooklyn, you just do it.
How are you getting to his? What do you need to give up salary wise to get to O'Neal?
He's at 9.5, so they need to get within 110% of that. And what is Najee? Do you know what? Not Najee.
Not little 6.3 million.
So like that's already almost so. Like 6.3 plus like one of their minimums. I believe that's
or something.
Like you should be able. It might need to be a 3-for-1 where you rally in a third team, perhaps. But like, is that not enough for Royce O'Neal? If you're,
I don't know. It might be enough, and I think O'Neal definitely would play.
I mean, I would think he would. I mean, like it gets a little bit weird with just because he's more trustworthy on the offensive end and he can guard up. So I would think. But so if you're Phoenix, then let's frame it this way. if it's Nas Little and you mentioned Damian Lee's money, I think that should get them there. Let me double check. Yeah, that gets to Royce O'Neal. If it's 2 seconds, that money, like, and I told you what seconds would be Memphis in 28 and 29. Would you do it?
And
Like, who's
O'Neal's
saying no?
expiring, right?
Yeah.
I think I'd probably do that.
For both teams would do that?
Yeah. Well, I think Phoenix probably is the easier one. Although, like, yeah, and I think you probably would. That's another question though. Like, what could you get in the offseason for Nas Little in those seconds? Is there something better? Like, I mean, like, I just don't know. I don't know how to gauge that. I think,
Look, when you're this team and like a team like the Lakers, like Dallas might be able to talk itself into patience. The same with OKC and New Orleans. The Phoenix doesn't have the luxury of like, well, let's see what happens. No, fuck that. You gave up everything to go and win the title right now.
How do we feel about the center spot? I know I've been sort of not supportive of Yusuf Nurkic as a good center, generally speaking, but he's like been a lot better than I made him out to be this year. And Eubanks as a backup is fine. Like, is there?
He's actually the past few games he's been fine. By and large, he's not been.
Oh, fine, disappointment! I thought he was one of the best minimum signings and hasn't been that good. But yeah, he's been better. So like, is that a spot? I mean, do we go back to how do we find a 4 or 5 that fits in a closing lineup on a playoff team? Do we go back to the well on that again?
Closing lineup, but it's, hey, could we get someone to eat minutes? Nick Richards, $5 million. They could get to that. Like, so that might even be a matter. Go ahead.
We're just going to close with Nurkic. Like, that's what we're saying.
I think Nick Richards would give you another option to close with, in addition to, well, maybe we'll just run Kevin Durant at the 5 in the playoffs.
I guess that's KD at the 5 against a lot of teams is probably, you can get away with that.
I don't really have like another name I thought about. How about the other Martin brother? His stock is in the toilet, but he's like I think he's a better.
How different could he be?
He's under contract for a while though, but you could get to his number with Nas Little in another deal.
Yeah. I'm a little disappointed Nas Little didn't just like seize more minutes for this team. I thought there was a decent chance that might happen.
We both very much, actually, you were more not critical, but skeptical of, they're just going to be relying on guys who are available for these minimums for a reason, or they were able to get Nas Little for a reason. And I was just like, no, they did a great job. And it's like, whenever that happens again, I'm going to be more cognizant of saying it, even if they are good by the minimum, it still creates a culture of ambiguity, because you're gonna have to futz and fiddle and change things up, because there's the reason these guys are available at the minimum is they're not night to night guys. Nas Little, they didn't sign. I understand that, but he fits into that motif.
I mean, don't be too hard on yourself. I'm for sure have said several times that they nailed all these minimums and like were just phenomenal across the board.
But I remember you were more skeptical than I was.
That tends to be the case. Do we do most likely to be traded?
It's got to be Nas Little, right?
Yeah, it's like if you're going to do anything if you're going to do anything that sort of matters, you just need his number, right?
Or are they going to be, because is Matt Ishbia going to get pocket chime? Like, we gave all these guys player options. We just need to dump some of these minimums so we don't get taxed on their player options.
Well, don't those guys, I should know this, but don't those guys get like implied no trade clauses when you do that?
No, if they had their bird rights, it would be like the setup that we saw where D'Angelo Russell had to give up. Like, he had to waive his no trade clause. Those guys were just signed off the street. Another red flag, perhaps.
Yeah, right. They're so good, though.
Portland, they're just in straight. They're not listening to offers reportedly on Jeremy Grant. I don't believe that, but it's sort of. Here's how I would frame what they should do at the trade deadline: is be open to anything, but it should basically be, okay, well, who are the best players we could get for Malcolm Brogdon? Mm-hmm. And I'll read you my list. That's just the only way to frame Portland. I've been happy. Like, Scoot seems happy with his role. When he's come off the bench at points, he hasn't closed certain games. That's been a little weird. But so my 2 high-end options for them, like, if you're Orlando, do you think about giving up Anthony Black if it gets you Malcolm Brogdon? If that's just salary and Anthony Black is the compensation, or no? Too rich?
I think it's a little early for Orlando to do that with that high of a pick.
Fair. Little. I have Naz Reid on here because of the Brogdon stuff I mentioned before.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the same kind of asset I want Portland to be targeting. I think you need.
Why? He's 23.
Well, is he?
I lied. He's 24.
Is he for sure? Yeah, I don't know. He's probably better than DeAndre Ayton, just in a vacuum.
Look, DeAndre Ayton has nothing to prove because he's a max player and he plays like he has.
Maybe it feels weird to me because Reed isn't like a a speculative, like, oh, superstar upside, but might be broken forever type that I feel like
They have a player
after.
that's even if you're trading Jeremy Grant, you're not going to get the
Yeah.
like even if you I agree with you that the Magic probably say no. If it's Malcolm Brogdon and you're sweetening it a little bit on your end, like maybe you get there, but in a vacuum, like who's the best young player you could get for Jeremy Grant? You like would here's one, assuming they could get some money, but it would cost Buddy Hield. So I think that's a no-go. But like if you're the Pacers, would you even give up Jarris Walker for Jeremy Grant after saying we're not going to give him up for Pascal Siakam?
Well, I mean, I would, I think.
You're just like you are the living embodiment of the fuck them kids meme right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jeremy Grant's not like 35, so I mean, he's gonna be at or near and ending his prime probably over the life of this fairly long contract. Like, Jarris Walker might turn into something, but like he makes way more sense on Portland than he does on Indiana at this point, just because Indiana's good already. Like, and he's not ready to help yet. I don't know. Jeremy Grant and Siakam in the same front court suddenly are the Pacers good on defense now? Is that what happens?
And is that too much of having Jeremy Grant at the 3, or are you okay with that? Because Turner is there too.
I don't mind it. I think if you've got 3 front court guys that can all move like pretty well
here's the other thing I didn't frame. And when I wrote about this is I actually framed it as if you traded Anthony Simons to Orlando and could get Anthony Black. So you're not getting any firsts, but you get Anthony Black in salary. That's more of a conversation, right?
Yeah, that's more of a conversation for Orlando. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I kind of love Simons on Orlando. I think we probably talked about him as
he's my top target for them and something that I'm publishing. I have a big board or I guess it's a small board because it's 5 targets for each team, but believe you me, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of boards.
I have 3 other names to throw at you here, though.
Okay.
This is your flyer. He doesn't have superstar upside, but I will be forever obsessed with him because he is just a human slingshot and can defend all over. He's like anarchic. It's kind of like in the same vein as Chris Boucher, but he's even more unpredictable than peak Chris Boucher. JT Thor.
That is not a name I expected to see here.
Well, that's just Flyer City. It's okay. We're not moving any of our core guys to Charlotte. It's just, we have our front court is, and I think, look, I want to make it clear. We've seen some good stretches from Duop Reith, Jabari Walker, but it's sort of like, okay, if DeAndre Ayton is going to be this, I'll put it kindly and say inconsistent, and we've dealt with some injuries in the front court, like JT Thor can give you minutes at the 4 or the 5, and he can defend really every position. I'm just very high on JT Thor. So that's my flyer one. I have 2 others. Jonathan Isaac for this team. So if you are doing some sort of a trade with Brogdon or Simons in Orlando, he makes sense as like, we're talking about flyers. And then
that's what I want. That's the type of player I want.
Well, how about this player, Grant Williams?
Interesting. And you would so what are you giving up just hypothetically?
So that either get him back as part of the salary matching in the Grant trade, or does Dallas just want to get rid of him? But at that point, I mean, look, Portland's salary matching, it's okay. Does Dallas want Brogdon? I don't know why. You already have Kyrie and
probably not.
So they don't like Portland doesn't have these. I mean, Ayton, I'm sure they might gladly trade at this point, but Dallas doesn't want him. I mean, and Dallas isn't going to want RW3. Dallas cannot. I've seen, unless I'm missing something, I've seen a lot of Matisse Thybulle to Dallas. They can't legally trade for him for a year. So
not
you don't
allowed.
really have the ability to get him unless it's part of it. So if you're going to get Jeremy Grant or if you're trading Jeremy Grant for Dallas's prospects and first rounders, I like the idea of Grant Williams as part of the salary matching.
Yeah.
Is basically where I'm at.
One other Flyer second drafty type guy, just Patrick Williams. I'm sure I've tried to send him to every like kind of bad team.
What do you give up for him?
I don't know. Whatever. I'm not thinking about the Bulls side of this. This is the type of player I think you should be going for if you're Portland. You've got this little grace period happening because everybody's happy with your young core basically, and you're 1 year out of the post Dame. You're in post Dame time. Just take a shot on Patrick Williams. Why not? I'm going to suggest the next team too.
Is there one need you would like to see them address? I would like to see just because Grant is already there, but it's like, do we have a long-term 4 or 5 really on Portland right now? I think Tamani Kamara comes closest.
No, I mean, they don't, and that's fine. Yeah, Kamara, I like a lot about Kamara, but he's not, I mean, if he's the be all end all at that spot for the next half decade, I'll be pretty surprised. Yeah,
by the way, we might need to look into whether Matt Ishbia and / James Jones are bad like negotiators to where they can't even win any of the smaller aspect. Like, they
Right.
gave up everything to the Nets. They didn't win anything. They even lost Jay Crowder in that deal, and then they couldn't even keep Tamani Kamara as part of the DeAndre Ayton dump.
And it's not like that was unforeseeable, because there were a lot of Suns people that were like, bummed to see Kamara go. Like,
I had to watch Tamani Kamara more of his summer league stuff, because the timeline guys before the deal told me, like, this is a guy. So it's just like, this isn't like, oh, they couldn't have known. Like, the fans knew.
Right. Yeah. There was a wide swath of Phoenix related people that were aware that he was going to be like a really good defensive player at minimum, starting immediately. Most likely to be traded.
I think it's Brogdon.
I'm trying to think if there's anyone even in the same like level as him. He's such a definite to me.
Do you think that they could consider moving RW3 just with but I guess Ayton's been so bad.
I just think Brogdon, he can play the 1 and the 2, and he's a veteran, and he's on a manageable deal, and it's not that long. Like, he's going to be so into, it's got to be Brogdon. I can't like, galaxy brain that. It's got to be Brogdon. Sacramento Kings are next.
What did they do? They're with the Kings, as we know what they need, and that's just because you look, and like, their offense has been wonky at points this year, so I get it, but they really just need like playoff level defenders on their team, preferably those who don't torpedo their floor balance in the half court. But they're a good team, but they might be somewhere I'm like, well, maybe you should just wait until the offseason, because what is your best, are there names or needs that it's just, okay, well, I would make this deal now and let's get, I just look at the Western Conference landscape right at this moment, and I'm like, the Kings are really good, but I don't see the player out there that they can consolidate into who puts them in the Nuggets / Clippers / Thunder / Timberwolves tier.
Yeah, their situation is not that different from a lot of other teams. It's just that they're kind of in a worse spot for that to be the case, which is that, like, there's not a trade out there that they could get. There's not a player out there that they could get without giving up, say, Keegan Murray, which they just don't want to. They're not going to trade him. That would put them like a notch up, I don't think. And it's just painful for them because they're right at like that, probably out of the play-in, but not necessarily, and above the play-in, but not for sure, and not going to be a top 4 team, like, unless you just made this insane trade. This just doesn't exist. But it's like, it's wing defense. It's a combo forward that can really guard. It's an upgrade on the Harrison Barnes spot, essentially. And I guess, like, if you go beyond that, you could use someone that, like, that's the thing. It's like, oh, Kevin Huerter is not quite good enough, defensively to really matter in the playoffs. But I mean, he's a great shooter and he's got good chemistry with Sabonis. And if you just, make a marginal trade to move on top of him, move, a player above him or send him out, it's like, you're losing that shooting. You're just like, this is all just a roundabout way of saying what you started this out with, which is like, the needs are understood. The options available are what they are. And unless you're going to throw Keegan Murray out there, you're not going to get you're not going to get a superstar wing defender. Like, that's not possible. Right.
Some names I have circled for them. These are all, you're not giving up Keegan Murray for them. So I want to make that clear. I have Alex Caruso.
Is on my list.
Dorian Finney-Smith.
Oh, not on my list, but that's a good one.
Jayshawn Tate.
Yeah, mine too.
Denny Avdia for them, poison pill, but it's workable.
Mm-hmm.
And my final one is Kyle Kuzma. He's definitely like an upgrade. I just don't know if he's enough of it. But if it's just sort of like salary and a protected pick, if that's what it comes down to, I'd probably roll the dice on it.
Is that Huerter going out, you think?
Could be Huerter, could be Barnes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's better than Barnes, probably. Especially if Kuzma would, like, defend like we know he can defend, if he's in a better situation, which is a possibility. This is all I told you I was getting.
Keegan Murray and De'Aaron Fox, the way that they've defended this year, like, that kind of makes Kuzma's job a lot easier. And so I would think that he might be even more valuable defensively to the Kings than he might look on the Wizards right now.
And it'd be a lot harder for him to not bring max effort defensively if Fox is doing it and Keegan Murray's doing it. It's not just like his job on the court is a little different. It's like, you can't half-ass it.
I have more questions about his offensive fit than his defensive fit here. Is that
really
weird?
Well, just because he kind of cannibalized some possessions, you think?
And it's like, he's just been in Washington, had so much more agency because of the Bradley Beal injury and the makeup of this team. can he slide into a more complementary role? I think it helps that you have, even in LA, where it was LeBron's one of the best passers alive, and De'Aaron Fox, great playmaker, but because you have Sabonis who can facilitate the offense from like all these different set positions or live dribble positions, and he's someone who players get out and run for. Maybe it's like Anthony Davis isn't doing that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like Sabonis is the type of playmaker that will either get dudes paid, not on the level of Jokic, but he'll get dudes paid, or he'll get dudes to play hard or fit into a role.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Do you think they make a trade?
They can't. I look at them and say they're too good to just stand pat. Like you should be searching for upgrades, but just what is the upgrade? Even if they could get to Jeremy Grant, do you do that?
Not without Murray, probably.
And you don't think? I mean, they have first round picks to trade. You still think it would call like the Kings? I'm not giving up Keegan Murray if the Blazers want him or Grant. That's not happening.
I just think from the Blazers' perspective, it's like, what do we want with Harris? I mean, it's got to be a lot. You're gonna have to overpay me in picks if Harrison Barnes is the piece, because I don't think necessarily. Well, yeah, he probably doesn't have like Brogdon value if you're trying to flip him.
If they said 2 firsts for Jeremy Grant, and then what is the Kings don't have bad matching salary unless you're that low on Harrison Barnes long term. But if like that was, I mean, and the problem is that you need Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter probably.
That's another reason it's hard to,
that's the Jeremy Grant conundrum. Yeah.
No, so then who's most likely to be traded? If
I think it's, you got to cut bait with Davion Mitchell, right?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely put him as a target for a lot of teams. For that reason, that's maybe not a good reason to be a target, which is that like your team has kind of decided he's played more lately. But there was a chunk of this year where he was out of the rotation, and like, I mean, his shooting has gotten worse every year, and it was not a strength to begin with. So like, I mean, I guess that augurs in favor of the Kings are going to trade him because they don't like really need him anymore. But then what's his value? Why are you trading for him?
It feels like if you're trading Barnes or Huerter, who are more convenient, they have more value and they're more convenient salary matchers. What is just the big move? So unless you're just all in on them getting Alex Caruso, where the Bulls, I'm sure, would have interest in Kevin Huerter in that deal. They'd have to send someone else out too. Yeah. But unless you're making that level of deal or getting Kyle Kuzma, it feels like it's going to be a smaller move. And maybe they look at it and say, well, we shouldn't move Davion Mitchell because he could still defend his ass off. And that just might be something in certain postseason matchups we need.
Right. Yeah. Give him one more playoffs and let's see what happens. Maybe. I think I want to say Huerter, but I do think Mitchell is so clearly like the most expendable of the guys they could move. It probably needs to be him. They're not going to trade like Vezenkov, for example, because that's another way to get like decent matching salary if you want to move up a little bit. But
also, if you're going to end up moving Harrison Barnes or Kevin Huerter and you wind up getting smaller, like let's say a Caruso as part of that deal, Vezenkov gives you the size to make up for that, or if Herter's leaving, it's the shooting. So it's like he's kind of
he might fill in on either of those fronts, so you don't want to move him. All right, so we got the Spurs next. We've talked about this over and over, but like just let's point guard. I think that's just what it is. I don't know what else, and then you should be in the business of definitely taking flyers on young guys. I just like I mean. Are we overthinking it if we go beyond the point guard thing? And are we avoiding it just because we've said it so many times?
If you would like to look at like someone who kind of fits in the front court with Wemby better than what they have right now. But I think because they have so many of their own flyers, it's just, it's a veteran who doesn't monopolize too many touches and is actively table setting and making the development easier for these guys rather than cannibalizing their opportunities. And so Tyus Jones has been mentioned a bunch. That's a name and look, they're expiring. The Spurs could look at bringing them back. Tyus Jones is a name. Monte Morris, if the Pistons make him available. What do you think of I mentioned Josh Giddey already. I don't know what, you're not, unless OKC wants Keldon Johnson or it's like part of a multi-team trade where Giddey, I don't know. Because DeJounte Murray and Josh Giddey, I think both fit here is my point. But what are you giving up to get them? DeJounte Murray makes so much sense just because if you can keep even one of those Atlanta Hawks picks as part of it while making them worse because you're taking a good player, that's just A+++, 11 of 10 gamesmanship there.
I'm just trying to think of like all the packages I want the Spurs to try for Murray would just be like insulting to the Hawks, and then they would just say no on principle.
What if they gave up? So they have the Chicago pick, they have the fake Charlotte pick, so that doesn't really count. Do they have anyone else's first round, or don't they have another one floating around? I mean, I have this all written down. Maybe I should go look at it.
Yeah, there's so many picks out there that I can't remember who all.
So,
you said Charlotte's, right? They have Charlotte's 24.
It's lottery protected the next 2 years before turning into seconds. So that's not. They have Toronto's. So like, if you just said like, here's 4 picks, it's Toronto's and Chicago's, and then like one of the Hawks, and then like, I mean, even 3 with salary, like that's not insulting, is it?
Well, what they should do is just find their 4 worst first round picks, like the Charlotte ones in there.
You say it's 4 because look, you got Charlotte. Yeah.
Right,
but like the Raptors, and
then the Hawks can say it cost us 3 and 2 swaps or whatever it was, and then we got 4 back, so we came out ahead.
The Josh Giddey thing is weird because I like his fit, but it's like OKC doesn't need more picks, so they would have to like Keldon Johnson or the Galaxy brain. We want OKC to be aggressive. It'd be a poison pill situation with Devin Vassell. Like they just say, hey, like
I don't think you give up. I mean, Vassell has kind of disappointed relative to our expectations, maybe. But I still don't think.
No, first of all, he is not. He's going to be fine. He's been really good. I think he's just shown that, hey, as a number 2.5 rather than a 1 or a 2. I still believe in him a little bit as a number 2. Like, let's see what he looks like when Wemby's a finished product. But I was more so phrasing OKC would be Josh Giddey. You have to make the package work because of the poison pill. And then like they're just throwing picks and picks your way. Yeah. It's not Devin Vassell for Josh Giddey. So that's the OKC creating their own trade market type stuff.
Does some part of you hope that the Thunder do make a trade that brings back like 3 more first round picks just to be like, then we'd all just have to wonder, like, what is this guy doing? Does Sam Presti know the NBA is going to end the concept of first round picks in 2030? And like,
they're going to abolish the draft, and then they're just going to be bag holding all these first round picks. Is what's going to happen.
I don't know.
So I don't know if did I have any other? Oh, the other one, I don't know if Indy would give him up, but Andrew Nembhard for this team could make some sense.
He'd be phenomenal for this team. Can you get him with like?
You can't give up. The Charlotte first, you could definitely give up. I would do it because that's the Tyus Jones thing. I don't know if you saw the report. They're willing to take seconds, and so if I'm the Spurs, I'm like, so at best, this Charlotte pick is just going to be number 15. I will offer this. You can say you got a first round pick. We'll match the money. This just seems like, why is Tyus Jones not on the Spurs?
Right. Use Devontae Graham or use Doug McDermott, whatever you got to do as the salary, and then you're done. Yeah, it's like, it's one of those things where we've talked about Tyus Jones specifically as the guy here for so long that if it does happen, I think it's like, why did it take this long? Everybody,
they were waiting out. Maybe they were like, Washington doesn't need to be in a rush. If they know that package is always there, it's just, will someone get desperate? Will there be an injury that causes?
That's true. You probably, if you're the Wizards, you wait for a contender to get real skittish. You wait for the Wolves to do something dumb.
Or maybe you're waiting for a team that decides, hey, we want to get off bad money. Mm-hmm. So like, we're going to compensate you more for Tyus Jones. I don't know if I have anything. I was trying to think of like a big or like a 4 because Wemby's better off but it's like, it's a 4 or 5 who doesn't, scrub Wemby's usage that he currently has away. I don't really have. I mean, Jalen Johnson would be fun for this team.
I guess Isaiah Stewart. You had him for another team for that similar kind of role. If he fits with Chet, he fits with Wemby. Like that's the rule, right? We can think about them the same way.
You might be in love with Rui Hachimura. Should you just throw his name out here for no reason in particular?
Did I throw his name?
Naz Reid would make some sense next to Wemby if we're throwing.
Yeah, he would. I mean,
he's not really a big. Caleb Martin would be fun everywhere.
The Spurs have got to figure out a way to not just get Naz Reid, but convince, like, give us some more bad money or give us something, Wolves. We'll get you out of this fix you're in. Like, give us Mike Conley too, and we'll figure out a way.
Why would they do that? Why would they do that?
When I'm just trying to get the Spurs to go get Naz Reid, it seems tricky.
Would you just to try it, or is this no? There's too much like spatial overlap. Could you imagine the defensive tandem of Jonathan Isaac and Wemby?
I'm doing it right now, and I'm gonna need you to leave the room for a minute.
Nothing else on the Spurs. I would like if they could find. I mean, Kelly Olynyk maybe if they wanted to take like
Yeah.
That might be someone.
Devontae Graham most likely to be traded.
Yeah, for sure.
Dead heat
Just
with
because he's
McConnell.
basically expiring. He costs $2 million to waive.
Yeah.
That brings us to our final team, the Utah Jazz. Oh, I'm ready to say some inflammatory things about the Jazz.
Let's go.
So they've fallen off from their scorcher. I want to make that clear. But I'm looking at like what they could maybe get from selling and the names, assuming they're not going to move Lauri Markkanen, which I don't think they should, and I don't think they will. But like, what are you getting for Clarkson and Sexton and Simone Fontecchio? And Chris Dunn is a name we haven't really mentioned, but he might make sense for a lot of teams. Or Olynyk. Like, we're talking about any of those players I named on their own. John Collins. Do any of them net you a first round pick in a vacuum? I would say maybe Sexton.
Maybe. I don't think you're getting. I think this is the point you're making. You're not getting like a premium first for any of those guys. You could get the equivalent of that Charlotte first we were talking about with the Spurs, maybe, or you could get. You're not getting a blue chip trade draft pick. I don't think for any of those guys.
No, not a blue chip. I think Sexton might, because of just like the pressure he can put on set defenses from his standstill drives, and he's shooting like a trillion. I think he's shooting like 52% on drives over his last 15 games.
A first, just like, what protections on a first for Sexton would you say? Like,
well, so here's an example. He hasn't been mentioned really, but maybe now that Clutch is made up with the Knicks, like I would give up Quentin Grimes or like the least favorable of, like, let's say this year's Knicks pick or the Dallas pick, like the least favorable of it. I would give that up for Colin Sexton, I think.
What about Clarkson?
I wouldn't
Clarkson
do the
makes
same,
a little more
because Clarkson gives you the off the dribble jumper element, but like you have that, like Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson are going to bail out before they get to the basket anyway. You need someone who might follow through a little bit more. And Sexton doesn't have the off the dribble jumper. I might trust him more just to bang in his set threes, which is and maybe that's not fair, I will say, because Clarkson I think he's been great this season, but and he's improved his passing a great deal. I want to make that clear. But I like Sexton is shooting over his last 10 games 45.7% from three. Clarkson's at under 24%. So it's just the way that Sexton's playing right now. It's not. I just wouldn't give up a first. I like Clarkson, but I have trouble He's one of those players where it's like, let's use Julius Randle as an example. 3-time All-Star. Could be, if he didn't get injured, maybe he makes All-NBA. And like, it's so hard to find the right fit for him. And that's how I feel about Clarkson a little bit.
I think that's
my inflammatory thing is go out there and buy.
I was going to ask you, if you're going to go buy, what like, that's not off the table. We have to talk about the buy option for them.
Right. And it's so let's even say you could get a first round pick. You don't need any more first round picks. They might be nice to have, but like, you have enough. You can go out if it costs you 2 or 3 and they're not like primo first round picks. DeJounte Murray on this team as someone who can be a steward for Keontae George. They can even play together a little bit. I love it. This is the team, second draft for Patrick Williams, because they have some actual draft equity to give up. Matisse Thybulle, like, just go out there and let's get some real wings.
They don't have any wings, that's for sure.
Moses Moody, like, let's take a flyer on him. Here's my favorite one. Are you ready? Did you look?
No.
He's not available, but they do have the draft equity to make him available. I just want you to imagine it. Get your bottle of lotion, maybe some Kleenex.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Tari Eason.
Oh man. Okay, so he's gonna play
Lauri Markkanen, Tari Eason, and/or Taylor Hendricks or Walker Kessler in your front. You know what? Fuck that. You can play all 4 of them together.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, Eason will guard anything that moves, so defensively you'll figure that out. That's really interesting. I had not thought of him. Although, like, I mean, how Kessler and Eason together defensively is really fun for a long time. And especially if you play Chris Dunn at the same time, you're just brutal. Brutally good defensively.
At that point, like, to get Houston to bite, it might be you need to give them players who are actually going to play. Like, can Chris Dunn as their Tari Eason replacement, include Kelly Olynyk, take back some of their bad money, and then give them, I don't know how many firsts. It depends on the first that you're getting. Like, Tari Eason has, what does he have, 2 years left on his rookie scale?
I think that's right.
So
he was a rookie last year.
Yeah. So, like, I'm looking at the Jazz first that they own. They just have, like, just because, like, Minnesota and Cleveland should still be really good. And so would you just, like, hey, have both of these 2025 first round picks from them. We'll give you another one protected to get Tari Eason in here. Maybe Houston says, fuck you. Maybe Utah, like Danny Ainge is not, but it would be like, that's what is buy on guys who can stick around long term and create. I want to see these teams that have picks and don't need more of them. And also in the Thunder and Jazz's case specifically, and even New Orleans, you're never going to be bad enough to get like high level first of your own. Create your own trade market. Damn it. I want to see it.
I'm trying to think if I had anybody. I had DeAndre Hunter here, just on the they don't have any wings theory as a target. Which, so again, like
they probably have the money to just be like, hey, Hawks, I don't think we're going to give you a first for him, but if you just want to get out of his money.
Yeah. Bruce Brown.
Who else do they have? Ooh, Bruce Brown here would be fun. Who else? What is their expiring money?
Oh, THT is expiring, 11 million.
Yeah, so if it was THT and Olynyk for DeAndre Hunter and then some capital, I wouldn't it can't be a high level first. I like DeAndre Hunter more than most, but
I think if you're the Hawks, then you can flip Olynyk too. Someone will.
Which actually, I don't know why they would do this because they're I guess they're giving up DeAndre Hunter, but they don't play AJ Griffin, so I don't know why they'd want Akbaji, who's had a really bad sophomore year.
Yeah, I think one thing that's nice is that
Hunter's good. That was a really good. I don't mean to sound surprised.
No, too late. I heard the tone. Oh my God, that was actually a good one.
I love DeAndre Hunter here. Like that's the perfect. Like you kind of rehab John Collins' value a little bit. Now do the same with someone who fills it.
Right. Yeah, this is like the Hawks getaway camp or something. No, they definitely need what I was gonna say. It's nice that we've moved past the oh my God, they need a point guard. Which was like part of the discourse on the Jazz needs for a while there. And now it's like they got a lot of really fun options. Like, George is the young guy and Dunn defends like crazy, and Colin Sexton's not really a point guard, but he tries. And there's a bunch of good options. It's just like they got way too many in the players in the 6'2" to 6'5" range, and they just that's why Hunter is a thought is you got to get some 6'7", 6'8" out there.
And aside from Dunn, most of those guys shouldn't be guarding up. And so I thought about, but this team doesn't need any more picks. Maybe they would have interest in Kelly Olynyk, but Kelly Olynyk, Fontecchio, and then how many first to OKC for Lou Dort? They don't need any more firsts.
Right.
Lou Dort would be fun here though.
We did it. I think we did. Oh, player most likely to be traded.
Oh, I don't know. It's
one of those Olynyk, doesn't it? It's got to be Horton Tucker or Olynyk.
Or you could just say are they? Because a lot of people are saying they need to open up playing time for Taylor Hendrick. I feel like they could just bench guys. We've seen, they'll do that. So I'm going to go with Olynyk on this.
Okay, I'll co-sign that one. Clarkson's up there, but it seems like he's got one of those. He's got a great relationship with ownership, so he's probably not getting traded.
And look, he and Larry Markkinen want to be there. It seems like Colin Sexton is happy there. So I'm not. I want the Jazz to buy, baby. I'm all in, and it's not even I think they're going to be this dangerous playoff team. I'm just buy, baby, buy. That's my motto for the Jazz.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Okay, so what are we doing on this version of Stat Penny? I guess the people really want guess a player, so I feel like
we are doing guess a player. I got to find my notes though okay, here they
are. Do you want, I have one from Be Rich for you.
Oh God. Okay, hold on. I can't get into the mind of a psychopath while I'm moving windows around.
Are you even healthy enough to get into the mind of a psychopath?
It might be easier. Let's find out.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Clue number 1. A 2006 lottery pick. I was traded less than a month after being drafted. Daryl Morey was an assistant GM at the time and almost certainly involved.
All right. So Daryl Morey is in Boston. This is a 2006, I think Boston, a 2006 lottery pick traded within how soon after being drafted?
Within a month.
And he was traded by Daryl Morey's team?
Daryl Morey was an assistant GM at the time and almost certainly involved.
I would love to get this on the first clue. Who did I don't think. Okay, I got a couple ideas. Go ahead.
You don't want to throw them out there? What are you more concerned about, getting it early or getting it right?
I don't want to say the name that I was in the wrong timeline for one of these guys. All right, no, I'd like to hear the second clue, please.
I was first team all rookie, averaging 11 points, 5 rebounds, more turnovers than assists with mediocre shooting.
After getting traded, right away.
Oh, I forgot about the third clue because he sent this all the way back on January 22nd. The third clue is killing me.
January 22nd. All right. Now I have to hear the third clue.
In my
Why this? You're really building this up. This has to be funny, or no one's gonna believe you again.
in my third season, I was teammates with Greg Buckner.
God damn it. That guy's gonna haunt this podcast forever. Greg Buckner. Greg Buckner.
We don't need to shout him out at the end because the listeners shout him out in the middle.
Well, what we've established is I know nothing about Greg Buckner, so this clue does not help me.
First of all, only like the bag, like the sickos know something about Greg Buckner at this point.
Oh man! All right, what's clue number 4? I feel like I should have been able to get it based on.
That's it. Those are the only 3. No, I'm just kidding. Number 4, in college, I was co-rookie of the year with Jeff Green in the Big East as a freshman. Then was nominated along with JJ Redick, Adam Morrison, and Alan Ray for the Naismith College Player of the Year with a picture perfect jumper and great size and athleticism. I won the 2008 NBA dunk contest. Some might say I underachieved my potential. Regardless, my 3 most similar players were Joe Smith, Robert Horry, and Juwan Howard. So I must have done something right.
Yeah, well, I hate those comparisons. I'm sure you included those because I hate them so much. Mission accomplished. Now I'm annoyed. That was a lot of information in that clue. I won the 2008 dunk contest.
Yes, that feels like, I don't know if I would have gotten it here. I don't know if clue number 4, clue number 5 will help you, but it's actually kind of wild because
the thing is, I don't know what team he's on at this point because all I know is the Celtics drafted him in 06 and traded him. And
you will get it. There are 2 more clues, and I'm pretty confident that you will get it on the final one if you have.
Okay, well, let's just keep going to keep it moving.
In my 17-year career, I made the playoffs 3 times. From my second season until my 11th season, I started all but 3 of my total games played. Never an all-star. I was a remarkably consistent scorer, ranging from 17 to 21 points per game during this run of seasons.
I feel like I should get it on that. So dunk contest winner in 08. No, I still don't have it.
Final clue. I was signed in September 2003 by Grant's favorite team, then waived a month later.
Oh, God. Wait, I thought he was drafted in 2006.
Right. He had a 17-year career. That would take you to 2023.
Oh, 23. I said 2003. I was like, what on earth are you talking
Sorry.
So the Warriors signed him in 23?
So this September, and then waived him a month later.
Oh, so he was like in camp and then didn't make the team is what were you telling me?
That's yes. Do you want me to tell you some of the teams he played for throughout his career?
Is it Joe Johnson?
It is not. Was he on the Warriors camp roster?
No, I was just trying to think of guys that would have like
You're on the right track though.
I feel like I should definitely know who the Warriors had in camp and then didn't keep. I'm drawing a blank on that. Yeah, you can tell me his teams.
I'll give you one unless you ask for more. He's probably most known for his time played on the Grizzlies.
And he went from Boston to did he go from Boston to the Grizzlies?
I can look that up because I don't really know this early draft trivia from the 2000s.
The fact that he's mostly on the Grizzlies and was on the Warriors for a second means
he was drafted by Houston, so Darryl must have still been with the Rockets organization.
Oh, well, you know what I really hope is that that's not correct, and that I get off on a technicality because Daryl Morey was not in Boston.
So he's drafted by Houston, and he was traded to Memphis, where he spent 6+ seasons before being traded to Toronto.
So he's in Memphis through like 2012, and then he's in Toronto after that and is a dunk contest winner. Can you tell me what team he won the dunk contest with? I don't feel like I'm going to get this.
Memphis. He was on Memphis in 2008.
Yeah, I don't think I...
So from Toronto, he ended up on the Kings.
Oh, it's Rudy Gay.
There you go. I was surprised you didn't get it on the Warriors camp clue.
Yeah, I forgot about that. The Daryl Morey thing really threw me off. Him being involved.
For a moment, I was impressed that you knew Daryl Morey was just with the Celtics off the cuff in that year, and it turns out you were wrong.
Yeah, that was that. Maybe that's on me.
Uh,
So wait, where was it? Where was because it was Houston? He said he was drafted by Houston. Is that
and
was
then
that where
traded to Memphis.
that's where Daryl Morey comes in? Okay, all right.
I have Rubik's Gal has random trivia for you.
Oh, all right.
Embiid's 70-point game on Wemby Spurs lasted as the top scorer this season for all of 96 hours before being shunted into second place by Luka's 73, 10, and 7 game. 70 burgers have been matched or surpassed in the same season only twice. The last time a 70 burger was matched in a season was a year ago. Donovan Mitchell dropped 71 on the Bulls on January 2nd, 2023, and then Damian Lillard matched it on February 26th. When was the last and only time that a 70-point game has been surpassed in the same season?
Oh man. I
If
want
you, I will give you, because this is just so hard, it's open ended. If you just take a stab in the dark, there's a chance that you will get it.
the last time a 70-point game was like someone got 70 and then
70 and then scored more than that in the same season or matched it in the same
I
season.
would just say Wilt if that's
And you'd be correct.
yeah, okay.
So it was 1961-62 when he did it. Wilt improved upon his 78 points against the Lakers in December 1961 with a 100 burger in March 1962 in New York. A 100 burger.
I have heard of that game a couple times. Okay. Yeah, well, that's a when in doubt guess Wilt situation, I think. There was wasn't there a game where I think the scoring title was at stake, and I feel like it involved David Robinson, who had like a huge game on the last day of the year, and like he needed it to beat somebody else. I forget what that was. I'm sure some of the listeners will be like are yelling right now saying, "How do you not know this?" All right, do you want to guess a player from me, or would you like to give me another one?
I don't know if I have the doc from Mike pulled up, so I'll give you another one if I can find the doc from Mike. So if you want to give me one,
yeah, I have to do this one because I forgot it for a really long time in the DMs on our Discord. So this is from Niko Chekalev. I forget where the space goes in the name.
Sorry, I think he might have sent one for you. Oh, he did. So we'll do that one. Sorry,
right.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
This one is for you. So, and again, apologies for forgetting to get to this for so long. Clue number one. Prior to the 2017 NBA draft, I was unable to work out for any teams due to my torn ACL.
Prior to the what draft?
2017.
Okay.
I wanted you to flex and just get it right here.
I was unable to work out 2017 draft. Jabari Parker.
No.
Fuck. Why was I so sure about that?
Well, he tore his ACL after he was drafted. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, twice. Yeah.
Ready for clue number two?
No, I want to guess again. 2007. No, go ahead. I'm ready.
I wouldn't have got it off that clue for sure. Number two, I ultimately went undrafted, but I have made a nice career for myself, playing over 300 games for two teams and signing contracts totaling over $50 million.
No, I got nothing.
All right. Number three. That's hard if you
I went from picking the number 2 overall pick to you found out this guy was undrafted.
My career best game happened against the Bulls where I scored 38 points and grabbed 19 rebounds.
Happened against the Bulls. I don't even get to know what team he was on.
No. You will. I think you're going to get it. For sure, you're getting it on 5, but you might get it on this next one.
It wasn't. No, there's no way he had 19 rebounds. I was gonna say Duncan Robinson.
He's probably had a 38-point game. It is not Duncan Robinson. Clue number 4. I am a 2-time champion, but I am not as successful as my teammate on 2 different teams who's a 3-time champion himself.
I don't even understand that.
This guy has 2 rings, but he's played with a guy. I feel like I give away too much information if I explain this too well.
All right, then go to the next clue.
All right. I am the only Canadian to win a title for a Canadian team.
Oh, no. Who was on that Raptors roster? Why can't I get this?
That is Canadian.
Chris Boucher?
That is correct. It is Chris Boucher.
That's the clue you thought I was going to get it on?
That had to be because that's the fifth and final clue.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one.
I'm surprised it took us this. Well, it wouldn't have taken us this long to get to Chris Boucher for you if I hadn't left a DM unread for so long.
You did one. That was from Nicole Che, right?
Yeah.
So I'll save his for another time so that week because Mike H has a ton of them. Are you ready for the final? I'll give you the final one, and then if you have a couple more for me.
Sure.
Clue number 1. I was drafted 43rd by the Knicks straight out of high school. There's no year attached to this yet.
Well, it can only be so many years. Well, it might be really, really long ago, but that Mike doesn't usually do those ones. All right, go ahead.
Clue 2. At the time, I became the youngest player ever to wear a Knicks uniform. 19 years, 4 months, and 4 days old.
Drafted 43. We don't have a year. Who? And he played right away. Okay. I gotta find something to anchor the time. All right, go ahead. What's the next one?
My 80 games and 1,382 minutes were the most played by a Knicks rookie since Greg Anthony in 1991.
Okay. You said 80 games and whatever, a ton of minutes.
300 minutes.
For
as a Knicks rookie.
Like a 19-year-old Knicks rookie. I should get this. What is this? I'm trying to think of high schoolers the Knicks have had that would have played that much. Eddie Curry wasn't a Knicks pick, and he was like number 2. Tyson Chandler didn't play there till he was much older than 19. Oh man, how do I not have this yet?
You might get it on this one.
Is it no, he didn't come out of high school. I was gonna say like Jared Jeffries, but he didn't come out of high school. Okay, go ahead.
Clue 4. I was a Knick for 2.5 years before I was traded for Penny Hardaway. Who remembers that Penny Hardaway was a Knick? I do. I remember getting excited when they traded for Penny. I remember getting excited when they traded for T-Mac, Steve Francis, Steph Marbury.
This must have been Penny coming from the Suns, I think. So
where was he at that point?
What young guy would they have traded to Phoenix? God, I don't think I'm going to get this either. This is a bad night for me.
He was, if it helps, you were correct that Penny Hardaway was on Phoenix before he was traded to the Knicks.
Well, that helps my confidence a little bit because I feel like the 43rd pick that played a ton of minutes as a rookie
out of high school.
What's that? Out of high school. It shouldn't be that hard, but I do not have it yet.
Clue 5. Kicking off a theme, I was traded a year later to the Lakers for Brian Cook, where I appeared in an NBA Finals that season and won a ring 2 years later.
God damn it. Phoenix to the Lakers. And he wins a ring with the Lakers.
Yes.
What is that guy's name?
That is the entire point of this game.
Yeah, good. I've figured it out. I can't. This is really frustrating, Dan. All right. Do you have how many more clues do I have?
4.
Oh, great. Let's keep it going.
I signed a $33 million contract with the Rockets in free agency after winning my ring, but was traded shortly after for Darren Collison in a very confusing 4-team deal that included Troy Murphy and James Posey.
Wow. So wins it with the Lakers, ends up on Houston, and what would have been a pretty big contract at the time.
Correct.
33 million. Who is this?
Again, that's the point of this game.
I just am so deeply annoyed. All right, what's the next clue?
Clue 7. I was then traded to the Hornets for Rashard Lewis before going to the Wizards, then back to the Rockets, where I played for 4 years.
Oh, God. I don't have it. I need
Clue
a really obvious clue or I'm not going to get it.
Clue number 8. I then played for the Suns, the Wizards again, the Kings, the Blazers, the Heat, then back to the Lakers.
So this guy played for everybody.
All the teams that I just said. Great.
All the teams that there are. I can already just feel the creeping sense of disappointment that I'm not going to get this. Do you have any clue? Like, in your mind, should I have gotten this by now?
This was actually a little bit trickier based off the clues than I would have thought. I could give you, well, if you don't get it on clue 9, I'll have another one for you.
Oh, okay. I thought I was out of clues. What's clue 9?
I am a meme on this very podcast.
There's so many of those, though.
I'm actually trying to think. I wouldn't have gotten it with this one, so Mike's going to have to clarify for us in Discord what we did to meme him.
No, thought I had it. Didn't have it.
Okay.
On Tilt Time, I was like, oh, it's J.R. Smith. But like, 1, not drafted by the Knicks. Like, 2, wrong year. There's a lot going on.
3-and-D archetype.
3-and-D archetype. Drafted out of high school.
Think of like the very best version of those Rockets teams. Those Morey Ball Rockets teams.
Let's see. I keep wanting to say Ariza, but
that would be correct.
Is that he came out of high school?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's why I was never going to get there. I didn't know that he came out of high school.
So when did he first pop in your mind? Was it after like clue 2 or something?
Well, going to the Lakers and winning a title, and then like all the teams, because Ariza's been on a million teams. But I didn't think the high school thing got me. I've done this 2 times in a row. I've gotten fixated on one thing, and
you should just throw out you never throw out the answers. Are you like concerned about not getting the wrong answer rather than
I was sure that wasn't right. It's like, oh no, Trevor Ariza went like clearly he was not a high school draftee, and I was just wrong. That was a good guess of player because
do you know what the meme is that Mike is talking about? Why are we so bad?
No, I don't. If you don't know what the meme is, I sure don't. I don't know what that.
We're so bad at this. Why does anyone listen to us?
All right, I have a bunch for you. I got to decide which one I think is going to be the most fun. Let's see. Okay, I kind of want. I'm not gonna do that one. This is a great pod. Me just hemming and hawing, trying to pick between like 5 guess of players. Let's do this one. This is fun. Okay, this is from Mike. Okay, number 1, clue 1. I was drafted out of Iowa in 1998. Parentheses ahead of Greg Buckner by the Hornets.
Oh my God, 98 ahead of Greg Buckner. They didn't give a number. Where was Greg Buckner?
That's all the information I have for you in clue 1.
Do I know anyone that was drafted in 98? Glenn Rice? Was that 98?
I don't know. That's a good guess. No, he was in the league
earlier.
All right. Clue number 2. I participated in the dunk contest that saved the event from extinction in 2000, but I had the lowest score in the event. This is a great clue because I forgot that this was the case.
I got nothing.
So he's in the contest with Vince and T-Mac, and I don't know, was Steve Francis in that one? I forget. Totally forgot he was in that. All right. Number 3. Following the 2000 season, I was traded in a 9-player deal to the Heat, where I only played 7 games due to injuries, and another trade, this time to the Cavs. And I would just say that the Cavs are the team I probably associate most with this player. That's my clue, not Mike's.
Ricky Davis?
It is Ricky Davis.
Really?
That's very impressive. You got it in 3 clues. You didn't even let me get let's take a lap on that one. Unbelievable. All you got was Iowa, the dunk contest, and the Cavs.
The Cavs one was the only thing that I don't remember him in the dunk contest. I definitely don't know. I'm so bad with college stuff. It's not even
now
funny.
I feel bad for Mike that I gave the clue of I most associate him with the Cavs.
Oh, that wasn't on the paper?
That was me.
Oh.
I feel like I should give you another one. I'll give you another one, but
What
I want to
read. Would I have gotten any of the clues after?
I think so. So number 4 is it was during this time with the Cavs that Jerry Sloan famously said he'd knock me on my ass. This was because I intentionally missed a layup on my own basket. I would have gotten 1 rebound shy of a triple double. You would remember that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't feel so bad now.
You can hit me with another one then, though. Since you ruined Mike's.
I know I blew it. All right. I have to do another one for Mike then. All right. Number one, I was drafted in the lottery in 1998 out of Ball State. Same draft class. So this isn't in the clue, but also ahead of Greg Buckner.
I don't remember the 1998 draft class.
Ball State helps. That's a weird college. Not a lot of
Yeah.
NBA players out of Ball State. Clue number two, the moment I landed in the NBA, I clearly embodied the bad boy image that my team was looking for.
J.R. Ryder?
No, that's a good guess, though.
Zach Randolph?
No.
Okay.
You want number three?
I'm just thinking of Blazers at this point. Ruben Patterson?
The Kobe stopper?
Yeah. No, that's Roger Bell.
Oh, it is? What Ruben Patterson once said he could stop. There was a Kobe Ruben Patterson thing at some point, wasn't there?
Was there? I don't remember.
I think so. I think it was similar that he thought he could guard him.
Keep going. You're making me think that I might be close based on.
I'm alarmed. I'm a little alarmed. Am I that transparent that you could tell?
Damon Stoudemire?
Not Damon Stoudemire.
Should I stop naming Blazers, everybody?
I don't know. Should I read the next clue to see if you should or not? Clue 3, I got suspended early in my career for screaming at my coach after he benched me. My teammate, Rasheed Wallace, clearly taught me well.
Oh,
so you're on fire. You are real close.
Who am I forgetting from that era? I'm not going to get this now because I'm in my head and I'm not going to be able to name these dudes. Give me the next clue.
All right. Clue number 4. During a playoff game in 2002, Bill Walton once said on commentary that my brain was clearly not connected to the rest of my body and that I was, quote, useless, unquote. Commentary used to be real different 20 years ago.
I don't know if you've ever stumbled across the Bill Walton broadcast on the League Pass now. They're still very different when he does them.
I accidentally did this week for the first time ever, and I did not know what I was looking at and I couldn't look away for the first 5 minutes because it was like an intro that he did, and he's in his teepee, and this other dude is playing a bongo drum, and Bill Walton is looking into a crystal ball, and this is shot like home video quality. It's not produced, and he's saying Jokic, and who are they playing? Who did the Nuggets play the other night? I forget. Whatever. Just naming players and just saying them into this crystal ball. And then he gets up and walks through clearly what is his own backyard, and someone's following. It's the weirdest thing ever. And this is the lead up to him doing the broadcast. He eventually gets to where he's going to do the alternate broadcast and sits down in his room there. But there's this huge preamble of him being completely untethered. It was so bizarre. So yes, I have seen the Bill Walton broadcast.
I feel like we should, that just says that we should probably take edibles and record a podcast and see if that will ever reviewed of all time.
I want to feel how Bill Walton feels sometime. What is going on? All right. So that probably didn't help you. Would you like clue number 5?
Yeah.
After a few disappointing playoff exits, the Blazers traded me to Memphis in a, quote, oath to the city of Portland to have a team of upstanding Portlanders, unquote. And given that I'd been suspended multiple times and been arrested during my time there, I didn't fit the bill. I was traded for Wesley Person, if that makes any difference.
Oh, this is going to annoy the shit out of me. And it's even more annoying that's not Zebo because he ended up in Memphis. Just keep going. I mean, I'm not going to get this.
I still think you might because you're going to get more teams. 6, I was part of the first ever playoff team in Grizzlies history and was there for 2 years before being traded to the Kings for Bobby Jackson.
Oh my God. Why can't I get this?
You got 3 more. I think at least 2 of them will help.
I'm cooked on this one. I'm not going to lie.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, all right. Clue number 7. I was awesome for the Kings, averaging 23 points a game. Ron Artest offered to forego his salary the next season for the Kings to keep me. They did not. I don't know how many years
that Jackson wasn't on the Blazers, was he?
No. Let me look. I want to see how many games he played that year. He averaged 23. Sorry. This isn't a fact check. I trust you, Mike. I just want to See, ooh, there's a typo in there. Not 23 a game, it's 13 for the Kings.
Oh, that is
that might be my fault. I transcribed this from Discord, not on mic. But does that change? That might change something for you. All right, clue 8. After that year in Sacramento, I wound up in Houston, then New Orleans, then China and Mexico before retiring after not making the 2011 Wolves.
Brandon Waugh? Roy?
I think the Portland, Memphis, Sacramento is how I remember him. And all the character stuff. Do you have it?
Oh, no. I'm gonna get so mad.
The last clue is I'm currently Damon Stoudemire's top assistant at Georgia Tech, which I didn't know. And if you're not like, yeah, it's, if I said headband, would that be helpful to you?
No, it's just gonna make me. I think the name has just left my brain.
Yeah, that's a possibility. It's not one that kicks around. I'm trying to think if there's.
Did I say I said Isaiah Ryder?
Yeah, it's not. Isaiah Ryder's a little earlier, I think. I'm trying to think what other possible clues I could give you that wouldn't just give it away.
What's his initials?
BW.
I should know this. You're just gonna have to tell me.
It's Bonzi Wells.
Fuck! It's 2:15 in the morning in my house, and I just screamed "fuck" at the top.
Well, sometimes you gotta emote. Yeah,
my wife is gonna fucking kill me.
She's gonna come barging in here like, not a good showing for us on Guess a Player this time.
I got one after 2 clues.
I shouldn't speak for both of us. Your average guess time was very short.
No, this one was just a straight up collapse that I couldn't get. You know what? I don't remember Bonzi Wells on the Kings. That's
so
weird.
He's only there for a year. I remember it. I don't know why I remember it, but I do remember him there. Yeah, the Portland. I mean, it's so hard. When you started just reeling off Blazers, I was like, oh, he's gonna get another one on like the second clue because at no point it was just like it was a bad boy team in the early 2000s, and I guess it was smart for you to get to Blazers that quick. But
could you imagine there being a team called the Jail Blazers right now? That would just be like, I can't believe that was ever a thing. But that's just.
And at the time, it was like, this is hilarious. Like, right? It was like, this is a cool thing because the name is so funny. Now it'd be like, you can't do that. It's pretty awful.
Grant, we've been here forever. Would you like to take us out?
I sure would, until we meet again in 30 seconds or so. Not that the listener will be aware of that. Thank you, everybody, for checking out this episode. Thank you for supporting us. Please continue to do that wherever you get your podcasts. 5-star ratings, comments, reviews. Share it with your friends. Also share it with your enemies, as we are obligated to say each time. We like enemies here. Let's turn them into friends, right? Let's be positive about it. Follow us on all our socials. If you're interested in merch or joining the Discord, the ways to do that, as well as all of our socials at HardwoodKnocks, generally speaking, are in the YouTube and podcast descriptions. I think that covers it. Thanks again for checking in, and we'll close as always with a shout out to the one and only Frank Ntilikina and an apology to Jared Allen.